So when I was in high school, I was dating this girl who really believed in spooky things, ghosts, skeletons, goblins. At one point, I think she thought Harry Potter was real, and I was like, no, 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 sweetheart, that's just Daniel Radcliffe with glasses. And regardless, she would always want to do scary things. And for the most part, I was down because I don't believe in anything paranormal, all right? Like, if she was like, oh, let's go into the sewers because there's ghosts, I would be terrified of rats and alligators and homeless people, not ghosts, because I just never believed in any of that stuff. Now, obviously, you guys can call me silly or believe me, whatever you want to do. I don't really care. I just didn't believe in ghosts at all. And to be honest, I'm still really skeptical of what's going on. If I had any logical explanation for the story you're about to hear, trust me, I would have used it by now. But basically, one day she's like, hey, there's this mountain near Las Vegas called Mount Charleston. And she goes, hey, there's a cabin up there that apparently is super, super haunted and I want to go to it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, that's fine. And, because I wanted to impress the girl, I was like, yeah, that's whatever. Now, obviously, I didn't think the cabin was haunted. By no means was I sitting there like, yeah, I bet you we're about to pull up to the cabin and the ghosts are going to be sitting there like, ayo, what's up? It's your boy, a Rice Gum, back with another video, like, that's just not what I thought was going to happen. Obviously, I'm a little afraid of going to the middle of nowhere to a cabin in the middle of the woods with this girl, but hey, if it makes me look dope and it gets me some action, then I'm down for it. So, we plan to go to this cabin, and I'm looking it up, and apparently somebody was murdered in this cabin, so the police, basically shut it down. No one wanted to buy it because when you buy a house, they have to disclose if somebody's died in the house. And so obviously, when you're shopping for a cabin in the woods, hearing that somebody died in your cabin in the woods 9 times out of 10 is not a good place or a good way to sell your cabin. Like what? The real estate agent's gonna pull up with, and this is where she was decapitated. Yeah, you can actually see right here. Like, no. That's not how you say sell a house. I mean, I'm not a real estate agent, but something tells me that doesn't work. So whatever. The weekend comes and she's like, okay, let's go. So we hop in the whip, the mom car that I had, and we bool on out to this mountain, and we stumble upon this cabin, and we get there around dusk. And I'm usually not a giant scaredy cat, but something about the atmosphere, the lighting, I don't know what it was, but I'm looking at this sketchy cabin being backlit by the sun, and I'm like, oh my god, this place is haunted. Like, I don't know what it is, but, a chill went down my spine, and she's like, okay, are you ready to go in? And I'm like, yeah. And 9 times out of 10, I would only be scared of realistic things. Like, I'd be like, someone could break into a cabin and make me go missing. That's a possibility. But ghosts were never the issue. So, whatever. We go inside, and I'm not even kidding. I felt like I was in Silent Hill or Resident Evil. Like, I felt like I was in Five Nights at Freddy's. 100%, any moment, King Zaboomafoo himself was going to jump out of the closet and hit me with the yeehaw, and then I was going to have to ride my Old Town Road down to Lil Nas X's house. I don't know what that sentence was, but it came out of my mouth. So, whatever. We set up our sleeping bags in the living room. Like, there really wasn't a living room, okay? All the windows were kicked out and there was crap everywhere, but whatever. We set up our stuff in what I think used to be a living room. I didn't really be able to make out what everything was, but it looked like it used to be a living room at one point, right? And my girlfriend immediately starts being like, okay, let's go exploring. And I don't know why, I just had this feeling in the pit of my stomach. I was like, no, don't go exploring. Like, trust me, you're not gonna like what you find. Trust me, you're not gonna enjoy it. But whatever, I was being peer pressured by a cute girl, so obviously I send it, okay? I'm like, yeah, I know in horror movies they say to trust your gut, and every time someone doesn't, they die, but chicks, let's go, full send. If there's a ghost here ready to end me, let's get it on, Donkey Kong. That way I don't have to turn in my homework I haven't done yet. Like, if you think about it, it kind of is a win-win. I get killed by a ghost, I prove that ghosts exist, and I don't have to do my homework, and I don't have to worry about my girlfriend anymore. Like, it's really a dub. So anyways, we go out exploring, right? And we're like getting into the basement, and I don't know why, but as soon as we step into the basement, I just get this feeling of like, nah, dog, get out of here. And I trust my gut. I've seen enough horror movies to know what's going on, so I'm kind of like, yeah, no, I'm not going further into the basement. And she's like, yeah, me neither, I got a bad feeling. So we go back up into the living room, we're chilling in our sleeping bags, and like, I'm telling you, I don't know if when we went into the basement we woke up the demon or like pissed off the ghost or whatever. Like, we didn't, I don't know, like we emoted him on after we knocked him in Fortnite or whatever. But as soon as we're like getting settled in again, there starts to be these noises coming from the basement. And when I say noises, it almost sounds like something's getting dragged across the floor. Now at this point in my head, I'm like, nope, the level of nope is untouchable. I actually feel like running away, screaming like a little girl. But of course, there's a girl in the picture and I have to act tough. And she's like, what do you think it is? And I'm like, Probably a raccoon. I don't know. I don't think raccoons are dragging dead bodies across the floor, but hey, maybe raccoons have gotten increasingly violent in the past couple years, all right? I'm by no means a raccoon expert. Who knows? So I'm trying to keep it cool. There's noises coming from the basement that, by the way, apparently somebody died in. No big deal. Just no reason to be crapping your pants except for the fact that maybe somebody died in the basement of the house where you're hearing noises. So after about an hour of it getting dragged around, the noises slow down. So we go a little bit outside and we make a fire and we start cooking our food that we brought with us, right? And like ever since the noises stopped, I'm feeling way more confident, okay? Now, when there's raccoons dragging other dead raccoons around in the basement, I'm not feeling too hot. I'm not too confident. But when there's no raccoons making noises, that's when it's Scrubby's time to shine, all right? So I'm acting confident. I'm like, oh, are you scared? Like, here, hold my hand. Look at how tough I am. And 30 seconds ago, I was about to ditch you to the raccoon and let you die in the basement. But hey, now, baby, it's me and you to the end of time. 1v1 me, no scopes only. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't even dump you for a Fortnite skin, girl. So I'm acting all tough, and that's when I see this. So I'm sitting in the back of the fire, and I'm looking at the cabin, and in the window, I start to see something moving, okay? And my first thought is instantly, oh, there's somebody else in the cabin. But then I realize that it's moving back and forth, and I can see, like, through it, okay? And there's no curtains. There's nothing. It's just, like, I can see this thing, and I'm telling you, dog, I do not believe in ghosts. To this day, I still really don't. There's got to be a logical explanation because I don't think ghosts is a logical explanation. But at this point, I'm freaking out, all right? Like, my cheeks are so clenched, I could craft a diamond in between these cheeks, okay? Like, I am petrified. But whatever. I don't say anything to her because she's going to be like, oh, let's go look it out. And I've seen enough horror movies to know every time you go to check it out, you die. Like, that's just automatic. Boom, you're done. So whatever. We go inside and we're trying to go to bed. She passes out. I'm like, girl, we are in a haunted house, okay? I still don't have an explanation, but then I start hearing noises, all right? It sounds like whispering coming from the walls. And listen, I don't believe it. Like, I'm telling you guys, I don't believe in ghosts. I just have no logical explanation. Like, if it takes the words out of my mouth, it's got to be pretty scary because I don't shut up ever. But, like, basically, I'm hearing whispering coming from the walls, and it sounds like people's nails, like, being dragged along the edge of the house. And the entire night, I don't sleep at all because I'm basically paranoid that the second I'm closing my eyes, I'm going to wake up to, like, a zombie nun in my face standing over me like, hello, Ryan. Like, I'm not trying to play games and get eaten by a zombie, okay? So I'm freaking out. I don't sleep a wink the entire night. I literally pull an all-nighter, and the entire night, there's, like, these noises and whispering coming from the wall, and it sounds like something's getting dragged through the basement again. And like, before anyone in the comments, oh, someone was messing with you, we were outside, we were inside, we were in the basement. Like, we would have seen somebody or something messing with us, okay? If Scooby-Doo and the gang of Shaggy the Pothead can figure out when somebody's messing with them, I promise you that I would have been able to figure out. And I'm telling you, I have no logical explanation for where the sounds are coming from. I have no logical explanations about where any of this was coming from. All I know is I'm sitting here, and I'm 99% sure I'm in the middle of a haunted cabin in the woods, and at any second, I'm 100% gonna get eaten by a zombie, and I absolutely die. So the next morning, she rolls over, and she's like, wow, I haven't slept that good in ages. And I'm like, well, good for you. I'm glad to know that if there was a real ghost, the one time there's actually something scary, you sleep. Every other time when there's nothing at all, you're fine. But no, fine. I'm so glad to know that you're an attack dog, all right? Anything out of place, ooh, it's not getting past you. If there was a ghost and you were the only one that we had to rely to guard us, we'd all be doomed. Thank you for that. You're the reason I had to come to this stupid haunted house, and you're the reason that I'm leaving terrified. And like I said, to this day, I have no explanation for what happened. I have no idea what happened, if you want me to be honest with you. I'm terrified. I never went back to that cabin. Anytime somebody brings it up, I'm like, nope, and I tell them the story. I'm 100% certain that place was legit haunted. I don't have a logical explanation. If anyone has a logical explanation for something getting dragged through the basement, whispering in the walls, and tapping on the edge of the house all night, please let me know, because I would love a logical explanation so that way I don't feel like I'm a crazy person trying to convince people that ghosts exist every day. So for those of you who know me, I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we don't get rain very often, all right? It rains very, very rarely, but the day that this all went down, it was a super rainy day. Like, I'm talking, honestly, some of the most rain I've ever seen in my entire life. Usually it is a pretty chill city when it comes to inclement weather, I guess. But for some reason today, it was raining like crazy, or that day. And I was on the other side of town, downtown Las Vegas, just because I had to drop something off at the courthouse. I'm not going to get into that because that's just a little bit of personal information, but basically there was this person that wouldn't leave me alone and I had to file a restraining order. You guys have already seen that video. So I won't rehash the story, but that's what I was doing on the other side of town. And like I said, it's pouring rain. And I'm a pretty sympathetic person. I don't want anybody being uncomfortable. So as I'm driving back towards my house, I see a guy on the side of the freeway and he's hitchhiking. And it's the pouring rain, so I feel bad for the guy. And this is stupid. Don't feel bad for people. I mean, do feel bad for people, but don't feel bad for people in this situation. So for some reason, I decided to pull over the car and I stop it and I let him in. I said, "Hey man, where you going?" He tells me. And I'm like, "Yeah, I just felt bad making you wait in the rain." He goes, "Wow, thanks man, I really appreciate it." And I guess on the side of the road in the rain and the madness of it, I didn't really get a good chance to look at this guy, but now that he's in my car, his hair is really unruly and unkempt. His eyes just have a crazy look to him. Like, you know when somebody just has the eyes that just seem a little bit off enough to make you uncomfortable, almost like they might be a crazy person? Those are the type of eyes that this guy had. Not to mention, he smelt really, really, really bad. And not like homeless person smell bad, okay? Because I can understand that. I'm not going to discriminate against you just because you smell bad. But the type of smelling bad that's like, I don't shower because I think the government puts lead in the waters type of thing, okay? But whatever, nonetheless, I don't think anything of it, and we start going about our business. We start talking about our lives. He starts telling me about how he's Jesus and how he's gonna create his own religion, and that's why he's heading up to Oregon. And he basically just wanted me to take him up the freeway so he could get a little bit closer. I tell him I'm not going to Oregon, and he's like, no, that's fine. But as Jesus, you know, if you don't take me to Oregon, I'm going to send you to hell. And at this point, I'm really confused. I'm like, all right, bro, you get in my car and you start piping off about how you're Jesus, and now you expect me to take you 3 states away because if I don't, you're gonna send me to hell? And the crazy eyes are starting to get a little crazier, okay? So whatever, I say, well then I guess I'm going to hell because I'm not taking you to Oregon. And he's like, well, these are your choices, you know, I gave you free will because of this. All right, fine, bro, I get it. You're a little bit crazy. You think that you're God. So he keeps telling me more and more about how, oh, God thought he was done the last time he sent Jesus, but it's not enough. So that's why he sent me back to Earth so I could create our new religion and our new order and really save the planet. And I'm like, yeah, man. That's so crazy. Trying to avoid talking about this with a crazy guy. And something that I didn't notice before is that he had a little backpack with him. I guess in the hustle and bustle of him telling me he's Jesus, I didn't really take the time to be aware of what he had on his back. But there's a little backpack, probably the size of a normal JanSport you take with you to school. So I guess it wasn't small, it wasn't big, it was just a backpack. And so I ask him, I go, hey man, what's in the bag, you know? Like, what does Jesus carry with him? And he goes, it's none of your business, dude. Like, he gets really, really defensive about what's in the bag. So, of course, I get a little scared. I'm like, oh God, there's probably something in the bag that I don't want to see. Maybe it's a human head. I don't know what's in the bag, but I probably shouldn't press any further. So we keep talking and I ask him, I go, all right, man, well, do you have any followers for your religion since you're Jesus? Like, does anyone believe in what you're saying? And he goes, well, yeah, in the last town there were a few, but they're gone now. And the way he says they're gone now makes me seem like, not like gone as in gone to the grocery store, but gone as in like, you might have their heads in the backpack, okay? So I'm starting to get a little bit nervous because no one says they're gone now, ... with a backpack looking as scary as this guy claiming they're Jesus and definitely isn't a serial killer. So I'm starting to freak out a little bit. I'm not afraid yet. He hasn't gotten violent. He hasn't gotten hostile, but you never know with a guy who thinks he's Jesus. So I say, oh, well, where'd they go? And he goes, well, that's not important. The only thing that matters is that they don't believe in my religion anymore, so I handled it. And he goes, do you believe in my religion? And I'm like, well, I don't know. You got to tell me more about it. I'm trying to buy myself time to get further up the coast, not the coast, but the freeway. So that way he'll like kind of get out of the car and not worry about it. And maybe I could be like, oh yeah, I'll check it out online and then just never talk to him again. So he goes start on and on about his religion and how he's basically going to start a cult up in Oregon. And I'm just nodding my head politely. And then he starts telling me about his early life and how he doesn't remember most of his early years because God was training him on a field of battle so that way he could take out people in combat. So this is just getting progressively scarier. And then he says something that really weirds me out. He goes, I don't need to carry weapons because my fists are my weapons. And God taught me how to use them accordingly. So if anybody messes with me, I can easily beat them. And I'm like, all right, bro. Well, please don't beat me. I'm driving. I'd really rather not crash the car. Not to mention, your smell is freaking me out, bro. If God did make you, he made you smell really, really, really bad. I mean, I don't think he would do that. He seems like a pretty chill dude. I don't think he'd be making you smell like a crazy person. And besides, if you're going to try to sell people on your religion and why they should believe that you are Jesus, maybe don't smell like urine. I feel like that's definitely not the best approach. Nothing about urine smells makes me be like, ah, man, I really believe that this religion is real. But regardless, this is what he's telling me now. So we keep driving, and I ask him once again, I'm like, hey man, I really am curious what's in the bag. I won't tell anyone. And he goes, it's none of your business. And he gets like even more aggressive this time. He kind of like turns in his seat and points at me really angrily. And I could tell I really struck a nerve. He really did not want to tell me what's in the bag. I don't know what was in the bag, but whatever. It's kind of weird to me that you're not willing to show me what's in the bag. Like, you're willing to tell me that God made you, that you're creating a religion, but you're not going to show me what's in your backpack. That's a little fishy, especially when I'm driving you down the street. So I try to calm him down. I'm like, hey man, I'm sorry, I was just curious. He goes, well, it's none of your business. If you keep asking me what's in the bag, I'm gonna have to handle you the way I handled the people who didn't believe in me. And I'm like, ha ha ha, okay, buddy, listen, I didn't mean it. It's okay, I promise. Please don't, please do not, make me go missing, I guess. My mom doesn't need me to go missing, especially when it's my fault. Like, imagine, a local boy picks up somebody that claims to be Jesus on the side of the freeway and is surprised when he ends up missing. Like, that's exactly what does happen, okay? That would happen to me. I'd be out here, you guys would be wondering where the uploads are. I'm just trapped in religious dude's basement or at the bottom of a lake in Oregon. He uses me as the sacrifice for their new religion. I don't know what he's planning, all right, but I'm trying not to die in the situation. So I calm him down again. I'm like, all right, dude, well, I'm interested. Keep telling me about your religion. We're getting close to where I need to turn off. And he goes, yeah, no problem. I'll get out as soon as we get to the exit. Just let me know. All right, buddy. No issue. No issues. No problem. We're going to be fine. So we're approaching the exit and I start to pull off the road and he goes, hey man, I just want to say thank you. Most people have been leaving me on the side of the road. I'm like, haha, I wonder why. Probably because I don't know, saw how crazy you are. And he asks again, he goes, are you sure you can't drive me to Oregon? And I'm like, yes, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to drive 5 states away for you. I'm really, really sorry. I'm not a fan. So we get to the exit and he's like asking me again if I'm sure I can't drive into Oregon one more time. And I'm like, yes, dude, I'm 100% sure I'm not driving you to Oregon. I say one last time, if you don't tell me, get out of the car, like I don't want to talk to you anymore, what is in the bag? And he goes, none of your business, dude. I can't believe you asked me again. I told you not to ask me what's in the bag. Stop it. That's it. You're done. And he gets out of the car and he goes to reach for the bag. And I just slam on the gas because I'm not trying to find out what's in the bag from him. So I slam on the gas and the door slams and I fly home and I call my dad. I'm like, look, this is what just happened, blah, 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 blah. I don't know what's going on. Like, I'm freaking out. I'm scared. I don't know if he's chasing me. I don't know what's going on. All I know is that I'm scared. And in the rush of this all, I didn't realize that he didn't grab the bag. So I get home, I run inside, I'm talking to my dad, I'm like, this is what just happened. He's like, look, chill out. He takes me to lunch, I calm down, I'm like, whatever, I'm never gonna see the guy again. So I go back home with my dad because he drove to lunch and I get in my car to go do something else and the bag is in the passenger seat. I thought he grabbed it. I didn't realize in the heat of the moment with my adrenaline running in my fight or flight that the bag had ended up in my passenger seat. So here's the bag of crazy Jesus guy that wanted to go to Oregon, right? So here I am with the crazy Jesus guy's bag in my car and I have no idea what to do. I'm flabbergasted. I'm enthralled. I don't understand what's going on. I don't know why I'm in the position I'm in. I don't know if he's going to come hunt me down. I don't know if there's GPS tracking in this bag. I might be in possession of human heads right now. I'm not sure. All I know is that whatever handled the problem is in the bag. And I'm not trying to be a problem, all right? I don't want him and his followers coming to my house Manson style, all right? I don't need that on my conscience. I have enough to worry about. So I pick up the bag with like 2 fingers because I don't want to smell like weird Jesus dude backpack because it smelled like him. And I take it inside and I go, Dad, look what was in the car. And my dad goes, what is that? And I go, it's the backpack. Oh, from the guy. He goes, yes. Oh my God, Ryan, should we call the police? I don't know what we should do. And I go, I don't know what we should do. All I know is that we need to open it. Because if we know what's inside of it, then we know if we need to call the police. We know what we need to do. And if we don't open it, then we're never going to know. We're just never going to know. My dad's like, yeah, you're right. So he goes and gets some gloves. I wash my hands so that way I don't smell like weird backpack anymore. And we put the bag on the table and we decide that we're going to open it on the count of 3. We're going to figure out what's in the bag once and for all and just put this mystery to bed. No more issues. And as I'm unzipping the bag, every time the guy said it's none of your business flashes before my eyes. So as I unzip the bag, the only thing going through my head is pure fear. And I open the bag. And you know what's in the bag, guys? Absolutely none of your business. As you can tell from the title, today I'm going to be telling you guys the story of the time I found something on the dark web that I really, really regret. And for anyone watching this that wants to go on the dark web, I wouldn't recommend it. It's a scary place. It's like the internet with no rules. So like think about Twitter, but with people that actually could cyberbully you in real life. Cyberbully you in real life. Okay, you guys get what I'm trying to say. It's a pretty scary place. There's scary things out there. So one night, me, Cyrus, and Benji were sitting in a Discord call talking about how the dark web was pretty terrifying and the fact that we can only see like 5% of the internet should scare scare us because there's a lot of crazy stuff out there. So naturally, when you have a bunch of really stupid people in a Discord call talking about scary things, eventually somebody said, oh, well, we should go on the dark web, it'll be sick. And I don't know how I got suckered into it because I immediately knew it was a bad idea, but pretty soon I'm screen sharing on Discord and I'm the one downloading Tor and getting ready to do all this crazy stuff. Because Cyrus and Benji, well, they peer pressured me, okay? I'm gonna be honest here. I was pressured, I was beaten. They strapped me to a chair, pulled out a car battery and said, if you don't do it, we will electrocute you through your little pepperoni nips. And I wasn't playing games. So we get on the dark web and we start looking immediately through directories. We're like Googling websites that would be fun to go on just to goof off. And as we're doing all this stuff, there's links on pages and stuff. And I'm just kind of clicking around. I didn't think this through, okay? It was really late. We were all just laughing, having a good time, thinking that we were, you know, internet hackers. And eventually we stumble upon this like directory thing with a bunch of links on it. And not knowing anything about the dark web, we're like, all right, well, let's just start clicking on them and see what happens. And this is where the mistakes start to be made. So about halfway down the page, there's a link, and I don't remember the start, but there's a backslash and then I see you. Like and then my eyes are looking at you, basically. And Cyrus goes, click on that one. And I have a bad feeling. I'm like, no. Listen, we're on the dark web. The last thing I want to click on is anything that says, I see you, okay? That's like hearing a scary noise in the basement and going to investigate it by yourself. Or I don't know. You know what's always pissed me off? In Scooby-Doo, there's a ghost going around, like, trying to cap people and murder them. And they're like, oh, we should split up. That's a terrible idea. You never split up. But that's enough about a Scooby-Doo rant, okay? So Cyrus is trying to get me to click this link and be like, okay, let's go see what the ICU one is. And I'm like, no. Like that's a bad idea. We're just not gonna click that one. So we're avoiding it. So 20 minutes go by and we're going back through the list. We've clicked on most other things that we wanted to. And Cyrus goes, no, click it. Like I really want to see what it is. Click it. And at this point, I'm feeling experienced, okay? I've been to multiple websites on the dark web now. I'm basically a god tier hacker, okay? So I clicked the link. And what I saw was possibly the creepiest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. So it's this page and on it are just a bunch of boxes, probably about 4 across, and I don't even know how deep the page is. Like you could basically scroll forever. And in each one of these boxes is someone's webcam. And they're just, you know, going about their day, sitting on their computer. Some of them, there's no one in the chair. Like it's just webcams. And we're sitting here looking at it, trying to figure out what it is, and then it kind of dawns on us, and Benji goes, holy cow. He didn't say cow though. This is a website where people have hacked into other people's webcams and it's just displaying all the time. That's what the ICU was. So we're looking, and the people that are sitting in their chairs or are in the background cooking dinner, whatever it is, wherever it is that their webcam can see, they don't know that someone's looking at them. They have no idea that their webcam's on. You can just tell by the way they're, you know, slouched, they're not paying attention, they're not doing anything. Like you can just tell they have no idea that their webcams are on. And up until this point, I was always like, haha, no one's gonna ever hack into my webcam. Like, I don't have to worry about turning it off or unplugging it or, like, covering it. It's never gonna happen. But ever since I've seen this webpage, I literally flip it over against the, like, desk every night before I go to bed. Because after seeing this, I'm just so freaked out. So here we are on a webpage with, you know, hundreds and hundreds of webcams that are on and displayed. And people are just watching them. And my question is, what type of crazy person wants to just watch someone through their webcam for hours and hours at a time? Like, what's even the appeal of hacking into this stuff? So as we're looking at it, we all start to get super creeped out because I don't know about you, but I don't like to watch people that don't know they're being watched. I don't like to watch people even if they know they're being watched, okay? I just don't like to watch people. So we leave the web page and we're like, all right, that's enough for the dark web, you know, like we're not gonna go back on it. I uninstall Tor. I'm like, that's enough for me. After knowing that someone out there is going and having fun looking at random strangers on the internet living their life, I'm good. I never want to go back. And later that night, as we're going to sleep, whenever the C920, that's the webcam I have, is on, it has these blue lines around it, basically. The blue lines are these two little half circles on either side of the camera that are on whenever your webcam is displaying video. And we're just like hanging out, you know, we're in the Discord call, like we're about to go to sleep, we're kind of ending things because we're freaked out. And at the same time, Benji and I go, my blue light's on. Unprompted, I mean, like obviously a few seconds apart, but we're both like, my blue light is on. So we're freaking out. We're like, oh God, you know, we triggered Anonymous. We're about to die. They're gonna come hack our heartbeats, bro. Like, I don't even know what's going on, but my webcam's on. We were just on this website. We're all freaking out. I unplugged mine. I didn't plug it back in for like 3 months. Ben unplugs his. Cyrus doesn't have a webcam, which is probably good because he has crusty fingernails and nobody wants to see those. And we're all freaking out. We're like, oh no, we did something we weren't supposed to do. We made someone mad. Like, we're gonna get hacked. We're all freaking out at this point, right? And nothing really ever came of it. We're all fine. We never ended up getting hacked. No one ever came and knocked on our door. But the fact that we were, like, the fact that somebody was watching our webcams definitely freaked us all out for a long time. And, like, none of us ever turned them on or plugged them back in for a few months just out of fear that someone was gonna watch us, you know, make YouTube videos. So, yeah, moral of the story, the only time I've ever been on the dark web, I accidentally stumbled upon a website where, 50, 60, a few hundred, I don't even know, I didn't count, webcams were turned on and people were just being spied on while they lived their life. So hopefully that's enough nightmare fuel for you. Someone's definitely watching you right now, 100% through your webcam, no doubt in my mind. So this story takes place when I was in college. This is from a girlfriend of mine, which makes the story just a little bit creepier, all right? I feel like if the story happened to a dude, it would definitely be weird, but for some reason, when you tell us with the context that there was a pretty young girl in the house, it just makes it even worse. And where we lived in Utah at the time, it got really cold in the winter, and for the most part, you really didn't expect many people to be homeless. Like, it just wasn't a very good city to be homeless in, okay? And there definitely were people, but for the most part, they kept to the downtown area, and we definitely didn't live in a major city by any means. So there wasn't really a massive homeless population, so squatting and, like, people breaking into houses to get warm really wasn't a thing where we were, or at least so we thought at the time, you know? And this friend of mine actually lived on the edge of town right up against the woods, and halfway through winter she started complaining about how she was hearing these weird noises coming from her attic and how it was freaking her out and making it hard for her to sleep at night. And me and all my friends kind of would make fun of her and be like, oh, watch out, the dangerous raccoon's gonna drop down from the ceiling and give you rabies. Like, no one really took her seriously, okay? And even she would kind of laugh at it. Like, she would be like, yeah, I know it's nothing. Like, obviously there's no reason to be scared, but, you know, it is kind of freaky. Like, the sounds are just weird. And so, obviously, for the most part, we thought she was just hearing things. Maybe an animal had gotten into her attic, but because she was renting, she didn't really want to, like, bother the landlord by calling and asking him to come check it out because the noises weren't disruptive. It just kind of freaked her out, all right? Like, it wasn't like she was hearing noises and someone dragging on a body across the top of the attic being like, you're next, you're next. Nah, she just heard loud noises coming from the attic, and so she decided that she was just gonna tough it out for the winter, and that was gonna be the end of it. But about halfway through the winter, she started dating this guy, and things got pretty serious pretty quickly, and he ended up spending the night at her house a couple times. I know, scandalous, okay? For anyone out there listening to this story, I don't even know what spending the night means. I've never even looked at a girl. My mom told me to never look at a girl before marriage, so, you know, I just never have. I'm a pure, innocent boy. But whatever, he started spending the night at her house pretty often, and he would hear the noises too, and whenever we hang out, he'd be like, man, it doesn't sound like a raccoon. Like, it doesn't sound like it's a big deal, but it sounds, you know, like there's a larger animal up there. Like, I don't know, maybe there's like a hibernating bear, and all of us would laugh like, ah, yes, a hibernating bear crawled into your attic and, you know, like, definitely is sleeping in your attic. Ha ha ha. Like, we all thought it was so funny, the idea that some bear was sleeping in her attic, you know? And the boyfriend obviously didn't seem too concerned about it, which made none of us concerned. Like, if anything, it made us kind of make fun of her more. Like, the boyfriend was convinced it was an animal too, so we didn't really think anything of it. And then things started to go missing from the apartment house. I don't really know, like, how to describe it. It was a thing with an attic, okay? I guess it started with small things, you know, like a box of cereal would be gone, a box of Cheez-Its. Actually, that's not a small thing. If you take my Cheez-Its, I will actually hunt you down with the wrath of Liam Neeson and cut off your big toe. But, you know, just like food stuff, or, you know, the remote would be in a different place when they woke up, and him and her were just kind of like, oh, you know, we just must be misplacing it. Like, maybe we are just misplacing things, you know, the remote moved, we must have just fallen asleep with it in our lap and, like, it rolled off the couch, you know. Obviously, you're making logical assumptions because it's not the most logical thing in the world to go, I bet you there's somebody living in our attic that's coming in and taking things. Like, that's generally not the most logical go-to that a sane person does. And then things started to, like, go missing at a faster rate, okay? To the point where it was no longer just things like being missing. Like, they would wake up to a new bag of chips opened and half eaten on the couch and, like, the TV channel on a channel that they never watch, okay? Like, it was getting to the point where they either had a carbon monoxide leak or there was, like, a ghost in the house. And I'm not even kidding. For a while, they were trying to convince all of us that there was a ghost in the house. Because, I mean, to be fair, that's a lot less scary. I would rather have a phantom spirit in my house than, you know, a strange man on Adderall. But, like, regardless, they start trying to convince us that all this stuff is going on, and none of us really believe it, okay? And we're like, yeah, sure stuff's actually moving, you know? We just think that they're forgetting things and being forgetful, and they're like, no, like, I'm telling you, you know, the other day, we bought a bag of barbecue chips, and we hadn't opened them yet. We woke up, and they were half gone on the couch, and we were both asleep in bed. Like, I don't know what's happening or what's going on. But I feel like things are getting moved around. And I had seen on Reddit a little bit ago that some guy had a carbon monoxide leak and was forgetting what he was doing during the night. So I said, hey, I saw this on Reddit. There's a whole thread about it, about how if you have a carbon monoxide leak, sometimes you'll forget what you were doing the night before and you might do things like in your sleep. And they were like, wow, okay, maybe that's it. So they called the landlord to see if they had a carbon monoxide leak. They explain what's going on, and he's like, oh, yeah, I'll come check it out. No big deal. I'm glad you guys are okay. I'm glad it didn't get any further than this. Thank you for contacting me. So the landlord comes out, and they're looking around, and he goes, I'm going to go take a look in the attic. I'll be right back. And I guess when he looked in the attic, there was a bald man just sitting in the corner trying to hide. So he signs the flashlight. He's like, oh, my God. And he comes down. He says, call the police. So the girl and the guy call the cops. The cops pull up, and the landlord, and the entire time, they're like, what's going on? What's going on? The landlord won't answer. He said, you just need to call the police. You need to call the police. So the police come up, and the landlord says, I need to talk to you. And he walks over, and he tells them what's going on. And the police are like, are you being serious? Yes. So they go up into the attic, and sure enough, this bald guy had been living in her attic for who knows how long. Like, to be honest, nobody really knows when he broke in. We knew it was sometime during the winter, but he had a sleeping bag, a lantern, books, a bunch of food that was missing was up there. He had literally been living in this girl's attic for at least a period of 2 months, ever since she started complaining about noises, and she had no idea. Like, for anybody in the comments who's gonna be like, oh, how do you not know someone's living in your attic? When you're hearing noises and like a box of Cheez-Its go missing, tell me your first thought would be somebody lives in the attic, like obviously that's not what you're gonna think, especially since you lived in a rural area, in a low crime area. Like, no one's mind ever at any point thought somebody was going to be living in her attic. So the police obviously arrest the guy for trespassing, but that's really all they can arrest him for. Like, not even a serious crime. I mean, breaking and entering, but like there was a way into the attic, so he didn't really break in. So they nail him for trespassing, right? But keep in mind, this guy had been living above this like 18-year-old girl for the past few months, just watching everything she did. He had to have had a way to see her because, obviously he had to know when she was asleep so he can go get food and all that stuff. And sure enough, they found little holes that had been drilled into the bedroom and like the bathroom and places where he could look down from the attic and like see what she was doing in the house. And that's the weirdest thing to me. Like, don't get me wrong, someone living in your house is creepy, but knowing that there was somebody watching every move you made and everything you did for the last few months has to be the most terrifying feeling of all time. I don't even do anything. Like, the guy would basically watch me go to a party once a week and then make YouTube videos. But if someone was watching me do it without me knowing, that's next level scary. So this girl did have another year on her lease, but the landlord immediately let her break it because he just didn't want to deal with the bad publicity of this. And she was like, I'm done. I want to move. Like, I don't want to live in this state anymore. I'm terrified. And she was just saying how lucky she is that her boyfriend had basically lived with her at that point, because who knows? He was getting more brave, obviously, just kind of moving and taking stuff. Who knows what would have happened if she wouldn't have had like a guy there? Like, I don't know. Obviously, she was super freaked out, and none of us really blamed her. She ended up getting excused from a couple finals, which, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, going to a professor and saying there was a strange man living in my attic watching every move I made for the past few months, and I had no idea, so I'd really appreciate a little bit more to study, is probably a pretty good excuse. But yeah, the guy actually didn't end up getting charged with like any super serious crimes that I remember, because like I said, he was just living in her attic. Like, he didn't really have to break in. They just got him for trespassing, which is so mind-boggling to me. Like, this guy was creeping on this girl, and the most you could hit him for with trespassing. Sometimes the law and legal system just makes no sense. And obviously she was super freaked out. She ended up transferring schools just because like just being in that town and area freaked her out and just made her like uncomfortable. And I mean, same. I mean, if somebody was stalking me, I think I would definitely have to move. I couldn't just keep going. So yeah, moral of the story is if you're cold in the middle of winter, don't crawl into people's attics and stalk them, because for the most part, it's going to end up with you getting hit for trespassing and being an absolute creeper, and no one's going to like you after that, all right? Nobody wants to hang out with the guy who stalks somebody and, hid in their attic. Like, that's not a very popular thing to do. So the person who sent me this story apparently lives near an abandoned motel, which is a very terrible place to live. If I was shopping for a house, even if it was in like Beverly Hills, let's say I was hypothetically a billionaire dropping 800 mil on a house, and they went, oh, by the way, there's a haunted motel right down the road, that would be a nope for me. But this person lived near a supposedly haunted motel. They said there was about 5 ghosts that allegedly lived there, One woman whose husband ran her drove out in the parking lot. All the scary stuff that they do to tell you that there's ghosts. And this person was going through one of those phases where they're a little edgy and like, nothing even matters anyway, so I'll go out to a haunted motel and I don't even care, bro. Like, so what? Ghosts get me, bro, because I'm dead on the inside and they're just straight up dead. Like, we're just bros. So they were going through one of those phases. So they would go at night and go into this motel. And this motel was super old. It wasn't shaped like as a box. I guess the way they described it is there was 2 floors on the motel, and then above the second floor was like an attic-y thing that when it operated was used as storage. And whatever, this person would go late at night, like 2, 3 in the morning, to this haunted motel and just listen to music and be edgy because, you know, edgy teenagers do weird stuff. I'm not saying it's logical. I'm not saying it's the best idea. I personally, when I hear something's haunted, don't go, better challenge this. Better to have a demon haunting me than just not take my chances. I don't really know if I believe in ghosts. I've had a couple experiences that are pretty weird, but I don't know. But when I hear something is haunted, like when I hear there's 5 ghosts that want revenge on anyone who enters, I'm just not gonna go there at 3 in the morning because I'd rather not risk it, you know? Scooby-Doo and the gang would have never gotten into so much trouble if they would have just stayed home and made YouTube videos. But no, they had to go out and challenge every ghost within an 18-mile radius to a boxing match like KSI versus Logan Paul. So whatever, this person's there, and one night they're there again and their headphones that were wireless die because wireless headphones do that sometimes. So they pop those sweet little AirPods, those magnificent white pearly whites, inside of the charging case and close it. And that's when they start realizing that they're hearing noises in the attic, like something shuffling around, something moving. And then they hear like a blood-curdling girl scream from the attic and then somebody telling them to shush, and then it goes silent, which, if you are in a haunted motel and this happens, run. Don't go investigate. Have you seen a horror movie? Every time someone in a horror movie goes to investigate, they never come back and go, it was nothing, guys. They never come back because they get yeeted on by a ghost who is literally sitting there going, you're actually dumb enough to fall for this, and then they nay-nay on you and steal your soul. Don't go investigate when you hear blood-curdling screams in a haunted motel. But the person who sent me the story for whatever reason is like, man, I better go get to the bottom of this mystery. Better to figure it out, rather than just go home. No, you go home. And if you think that someone's in danger, you call the feds and you let them look into it. Because I'm not trying to fight a ghost. How do you even fight a ghost? What are you supposed to do? Kick it in the nads? It doesn't have nads. But now things start to get scary. And for the purpose of the story, my stupid jokes are going to stop for a small moment so I can build anxiety inside of you. That's not what she said. I'm gonna get to the story now. So they decide that they're gonna investigate, and I guess the attic doesn't really have like a super obvious access point, but they could tell that it's coming from above them, and they were in the bottom floor, so they go up to the second floor and they're going in and out of all the rooms, and they don't find anything. And then they hear something that sounds like it's getting dragged across the top of the attic. Like above the second floor, they can hear it start in one end and just almost something heavy is getting dragged across the attic. And keep in mind, they heard a blood-curdling scream and somebody saying to shh so nobody hears, and then dragging. And they think that they have now witnessed arguably the worst crime to ever be committed. I feel like if you're a psychopath, taking your victims to a haunted motel definitely is a way to add like +5 style points to your bad guy curse. But they obviously are hearing these noises, and they're like, man, I need to investigate. Because I guess in this person's mind, when you hear screaming and then what sounds like a body getting dragged across the roof, you decide, better keep looking. So they're creeping in and out of all of these upper rooms, looking for a way into the attic or seeing if they can see anything or find anyone. And they are literally creeping because they don't want to get seen. The last thing that you want to happen is if you're like trying to solve a crime, the person committing the crime to know that you're there. So they're like creaking, and I guess the floorboards are super creaky, and they can hear once it gets dragged to the other end, like walking back and then more dragging. It's almost like somebody is dragging multiple things in the attic and then walking back and dragging it back. And you know, that's pretty spooky because you're like, dang, I heard one scream, but why has he dragged 3 things? Am I in a serial killer's master dungeon where instead of a refrigerator, he's just using the attic of the haunted motel to keep everyone? So they're creeping, and finally, and it's pitch black, by the way, it's dark at night. So imagine just creeping in and out of motel rooms all night trying to figure it out. And so they get to the end of the second floor, and it's the only motel room that has the door closed. Everything else is open. So they kind of have to decide, Well, this is the only place left for them to either get into the attic or B, and I have to open the door. And this place is in disarray. It's not like the door hinges on this door are like, ring, ring, clean, everything's good, there's no noise, it's old, it's rusted. So they know if they open the door, it's gonna make a noise. And look, at this point, you've done your investigating. You've checked every room on the second floor. I would not risk opening the only room where, like, you know they can be. You are going to get axe murdered. I've seen enough horror movies to understand exactly how this is gonna go. So they open the door, and surprisingly, it like creaks open, and they're looking in, and it's a pitch black motel room. They can see like the outline of the beds and the furniture, and they see that the dresser is pushed up against like a taller wardrobe, and above the taller wardrobe is a hole in the ceiling about the size of a person. Like, it looks like you can fit up there. And at this point, they're like, oh my God, there is somebody in the attic. Like, maybe I was just hearing things. Maybe it's a raccoon fighting somebody. I don't know. But they open this last door, and sure enough, there's a way into the attic. And it's not like a ladder. No, it is a sketchy hole in the ceiling from like water damage that is opened up just wide enough where you could squeeze your body in it if you really, really wanted to. And at this point, once again, I'm not going into the scary attic inside of the scary room with the scary hole that's covered in scary mold, and it's got scary stuff in it, 100%, you know? You're hearing bodies getting dragged along the roof. I'm not going in the pitch black attic through the tiny hole. You can try to get me in there. I'm not doing it. I'm not gonna fit. That's what she said. But the person who sent me this story isn't a logical human being with any regard for their life, so they decided that they were going to go into the attic. So they climb on top of the dresser. They climb on top of the wardrobe, and they like put their head through the hole, and it is pitch black. It was already really dark inside the motel. You couldn't see much. You could make out the shapes of things. You can't see anything in the attic. Like, if you put your hand in front of your face, you still would not be able to see anything at all, which, once again, that's gonna be a nope from me, dog. I'm really, really okay. So they keep crawling into the attic, and at this point, they're in the attic with their phone flashlight, and they're looking around, and there's nothing. And this is the first time that they actually told me that they started to get scared, because they were like, oh my God, think of the ghosts. Up until this point, they just thought somebody was in the attic, but then they're looking around the attic, and there's no one. There isn't like a body. There isn't, you know, a person standing there menacingly. It's empty, completely empty. And so, you know, they're freaking out, and they're like, oh no. So they start walking around the attic, which, once again, total note moment. That's the one thing people don't get about stories. Like, oh, why is my life boring? Because you're smart. You don't get good stories from, like, being a smart person and thinking things through. Every good story that I have is me being a moron, and that's what this is. Oh, creepy sounds and then no one's in the attic? Better keep looking. Why do you just go? Leave before you get eaten alive by, like, a monster. So they're looking around, and that's when they see it. They shine their flashlight into the corner of the attic, and they see eyes looking back, bruh. Human eyes. There is somebody's whole face surrounded in black clothing looking at them in the attic, and they freak out and are like, oh my God, because I think it's this, at this point they're realizing the danger they're in. Like, hey, genius, should have thought about this earlier. So they drop their phone and just scramble back towards the hole and like drop out. They create more of a hole because they're in such a rush that they like pull more of the roof down with him, and they start running. And he gets outside the like door thing. The person who sent me this gets outside the door of the motel room, and they hear, wait. And so, for whatever reason, they wait, which is not... This person's gonna get kidnapped, bro. Like, I'm sorry. If you're watching this and you sent me this, it's nothing personal. You are going to get kidnapped. You don't wait after seeing someone's face in the dark attic after hearing dragging around. And then somebody else comes out the hole and has a flashlight in their hand, and they say, hey, you left your phone. And they give her her phone back, and she's like, oh, thank you. And then 2 people come out of the hole. So now there's 3 people standing there. And, you know, they're like, who are you? And so she starts explaining that she comes here to listen to music at night because of da-da-da-da-da. And then she goes, why are you guys here? And they're like, we're homeless. Like, the attic is just a nice place. Cops don't bug us. You know, we can just stay there. And the person's like, I guess that would make sense. Yeah, I guess so. I guess that would be why you're in the attic being all weird. And they're like, yeah, I'm so sorry. We didn't mean to scare you. We didn't know you were here. We would have been quieter. What a weird thing to say, by the way. Oh, sorry that, my living in the attic since I'm homeless was keeping you up late at night while you were walking around with your AirPods listening to music. My bad. And they were apologizing to her like, we're so sorry. And so the person who sent me this is like, no, don't worry about it. Like, it's okay. I'm so sorry. I'm so glad that, you guys aren't crazy people in the attic. And then they remember the dragging, and they're like, oh, what was the dragging? And they're like, oh, yeah, our stuff's really heavy, so we just, dragged it up there because we didn't want to carry it. And they're like, oh, I guess that makes sense. And, moral of the story is homeless people were living in the attic of the haunted motel, which probably was the ghost that all the kids believed in. Either way, I'm just saying, I could have gone without figuring out that there's homeless people in the attic. I probably would have just never gone to the haunted motel in the first place. But moral of the story is if you hear something terrifying, go investigate, because you'll probably get a good story and then be featured on the channel. Don't go do that. That is terrible advice. I'm not being serious. I'm kidding. Please do not put yourself in danger at all. Please do not. So, in middle school, you tend to hang out with people. That tends to be something that goes down. And I had a best friend at the time who I played a ton of video games with, and he invited me over one Friday night to spend the night at his house and play video games all night. And okay, I'm never going to turn that down. I'm a big fan of gaming to this day. I've always loved gaming, and I always will. The gameplay you're looking at right now is me and Grant playing Borderlands. Gaming has always been a huge part of my life, and even back then, I was never going to give up a chance to play a game that I enjoyed with one of my best friends. So he invites me over to spend the night and play video games, and obviously I'm hyped. I'm like, yeah, dude, no problem. I'm in middle school. We can stay up all night. Sure. So we go, we get Monster energy drinks. We're ready to game all night. We are good to go. And as expected, we stay up basically all night, which, doesn't matter most of the time, except the bathroom that was in his house was right near his parents' room. And the only time we were getting in trouble during the night is when we would wake them up when nature called. Because when you're hyped and on adrenaline after, 8 hours of Call of Duty and Monster, you're not exactly quiet when you're going to the bathroom. So every now and then we would just get in trouble by waking them up. So a couple hours into the night, I think it was around midnight, his parents basically said, hey, just go out the basement door and pee outside. It's no big deal. They had a ton of land. They lived right on the edge of town, and there was basically just desert after his house. So they were like, look, just go out the basement door. Their house was built into a hill, so you walked in on the first floor, and then the basement was had a door out onto the back. I don't know if what I'm describing makes sense, but basically you could get outside into their backyard from their basement because the house was built on a hill. So they basically tell us that it's important for us to just go outside because we keep waking them up and they don't want to be woken up anymore, but they want us to have a good time. So, whatever. Hey, the parents are being chill. They're letting us stay up and play video games all night. The least I can do is go pee in the desert. It's no big deal. No sweat at all. So we keep the door unlocked because, we've managed to lock ourselves out once or twice. And at this point in the night, it's about 2 a.m. And when we'd all wander out to find something to do in the desert when we were bored or whatever, sometimes the door would just stay unlocked so that way we could get back in. So the basement door is unlocked. Me and my friends are playing video games. And obviously every now and then someone's got to pee. Pretty normal situation. Nothing too crazy so far, right? So that night, his older brother comes home and keeps coming in the basement door and messing with us. So basically he would come in from the basement door, come up, because we were at the top of the basement right by where you would go in, and there was another door, and he would be make a ton of noise and scare us or whatever. So basically we lock the basement door just to mess with him. So now you can get into the basement, but you can't come up onto the main floor of the house. We locked the door in between the basement and the door of the house. So I mean, he did have a key. He could get in. They were both locked, but at least he would have to use his key and we could hear him, and that would keep the older brother from scaring us because he was just kind of pushing in the door. Whatever. So at this point, the basement door is unlocked, but the door into the house is locked, and the brother kind of realizes that the fun is over because we could hear him coming, so he kind of goes to bed, or we didn't know he went to bed. That becomes apparent later, but we thought he goes to bed because he stops messing with us. So at around 3-4 in the morning, we hear the handle jiggling, but we don't think much of it because we're like, oh, it's your brother trying to scare us again, great, here comes your brother trying to get in the basement and scare us. So after about 5 minutes of him jiggling it, he starts to jiggle it a lot more violently, to the point where the entire door is shaking, and my friend's like, oh my god, he's really trying to mess with us. But the door starts to like shake, and like we can see that the door is kind of jiggling in its hinges, and we obviously don't want him to break the door. So we kind of just look at him and like are looking at the door like, what do we do? And my friend says, I don't know, I want him to stop because I feel like it's gonna wake up my parents. Like the entire door frame was basically jiggling. So not everybody's just kind of trying to figure out what to do. So I walk over to the door and I bang on it, and I'm just like, stop, like knock it off. Like you're not funny, okay? Sorry, you're just gonna wake up your parents, and then we're all gonna get in trouble, and nobody wins in that scenario. We're gonna have to go to bed. You're not gonna get to mess with it anymore. So can you just stop? And I yell it through the door, and there's no reply. And my friend's kind of like, yeah, whatever. You yelled at him. He's probably not gonna respond because older kids don't like getting yelled at by their friends like 12-year-old brothers. All right. If I was 16 and a 12-year-old yelled at me to stop because I wasn't funny, I think I might take a slight ego hit too. So nobody responds, but the jiggling stops, and we're like, perfect, no big deal. So it's quiet, and there's no more response. The handle doesn't jiggle anymore. So I go back, I pick up the controller, and we start playing games again, no sweat. And about 10 minutes later, we're playing games, and the handle starts to jiggle again. It starts jiggling and jiggling and jiggling and jiggling, and we're kind of like, oh my god, dude, seriously, stop. And after about a minute of jiggling it again, he starts to shake the door frame, and I'm like, bang on the door, stop, stop, stop. So every 2 hours, every like 10 minutes, the door's jiggling over and over again. And time after time, I have to get up, go over, bang on the door, and be like, stop, dude. And at this point, we're starting to get annoyed, but we're like, the brother probably thinks it's funny how annoyed we're getting. So that's why he's continuing to do it. So after a while, we just start to ignore it, you know? After 2 hours of 10 minutes on, 10 minutes off, 10 minutes on, 10 minutes off, 10 minutes on, 10 minutes off. So we start to ignore it. But it starts again a little bit after we start to ignore it, and this time it keeps going for like 30 minutes. And I don't know if you've ever heard a door handle jiggle for 30 minutes violently, but it is not a settling feeling. And we're kind of like, your brother is weirdly dedicated to shaking this door, but whatever. At this point, it's about 6 in the morning. No sweat, I guess. We're all starting to get tired, and you get used to a noise after hearing it for about 2 hours straight. So this door has been jiggling nonstop all night, and we think it's his brother down there just trying to scare us, give us some good old spooks, that type of thing. And look, I get it, scaring kids is funny, but you've got some real dedication to shake a door handle for like 4 hours when the kids are just banging on the door and telling you to stop. Like, that takes an awesome level of dedication towards scaring people that we're not really super scared. Like, no one's really shaking at the idea of you shaking the door handle that much. But about 3 hours later, after we went to bed, like I said, we went to bed at about 6:30 in the morning. So about 9:30 in the morning, his mom comes like running in and is like, what did you guys do last night? And we're like, what are you talking about? And his mom says that the basement door was locked. So we start telling her about the fact that her older son was trying to scare us all night and was jiggling the door. And she gives us this weird look and is kind of like, well, his older brother wasn't here last night. He left at around 3 in the morning to go spend the night at his friend's house. He woke us up and reminded us. So at this point, we're like, hold on. He was scaring us up until he left then, but then what was jiggling the door all night? So we all get like this really scared look on his face, and his mom's like, what's wrong? Like, are you guys playing a prank on me? And we start telling her about the jiggling of the door and like how all night we were telling it to stop because we thought it was him. And she's like, he wasn't home. So she goes and gets her husband, right? And me and my friends are all pretty confused, and since it's the morning and everyone's awake, we were just going to their room to use the bathroom by the parents' room to use the bathroom. And basically what happens is the dad comes down and he's like, that's weird, and he opens the basement door from our side because you can lock it from our side. And when he opens the door, the entire door is just destroyed, especially around the handle and like the keyhole thing. Like, if you've ever been on an interior door, it's a little hole that you can stick like a bobby pin in and pop the lock. It's pretty simple. I don't know if you guys have ever had to break into like an interior door. And it almost looks like a mountain lion had been sitting there just dragging his claws against the door trying to get inside, right? And we're like, what is going on? And the dad looks at us and is like, what happened? You know? And we're like, dude, I'm telling you, we didn't do this. We thought it was him trying to get in. We didn't think about it. It would jiggle and scratch and see what was going on, but we didn't think anything of it. And he's like, okay, seriously, did you guys try to pop it. And he can tell by the look on all of the kids' faces, me and my friend and our other friend, that like we had nothing to do with this. We did not have anything to do with trying to break in. So at that point, the dad's face just goes white, like white as a sheet. And he runs upstairs and tells us to like close the door and lock it again. So we close the door and lock it. And about 30 minutes later, the police come over. And come to find out, I guess apparently last night when the door was jiggling and someone was trying to get in, it wasn't his brother trying to mess with us. It was somebody trying to break into the house, all right? So apparently this has been happening at their house multiple times, and it had just been on the basement door to go outside, not the dividing door, and that door's way heavier. So they just figured, you know, oh, it was some animal trying to get in, no big deal. The door was thicker, so you couldn't really see the marks of them trying to just destroy the keyhole. But whoever had been trying to get in had gone in through the basement door. Thank goodness nobody was down there, and had been trying to break through the dividing door all night. Hearing us bang and scratches the entire thing. Like, it freaks me out because the person that did this knew we were there and just kept trying to get inside. Like, it wasn't like it was a robber thing, because if you're trying to rob a house, if someone's inside and banging on the door and telling you to not come in, like, you don't go in. So whoever this was very clearly did not have very good plans inside, because you could hear 3 kids screaming and playing video games, and they were banging on the door telling you to knock it off and saying their brother's name, and none of that scared you. Like, the person who was doing this was like, oh yeah, no big deal, I'm trying to break in, and these kids are saying names and asking me to stop, but nah, like, I get chills every time I tell this story, just because you never know how close you are to something dangerous. And like, even us, just so chill, just thought it was his brother trying to mess with us, but at the end of the day, it was somebody trying to break into his house and knowing we were there and just didn't care. So 2 Halloweens ago, when I was the ripe old age of 18, I thought I was pretty indestructible, all right? Do you remember that clip of, like, the wide receiver in the NFL front flipping over the cornerback to score? Like, that's how I felt. I was like, demons, ghosts, goblins can't touch me. I will literally front flip over your demonic possession and double no-scope you if you even try to look at me funny, all right, demons? And at the time, I had friends that were super into, like, spooks and ghosts and goblins and demons, and, like, just generally thought that stuff was super interesting. And I don't know, I wouldn't really say that I like believe in ghosts. I don't really know if I believe in that type of stuff, but they really did. And so they were like, on Halloween, let's play with a Ouija board in a cemetery. And I'm like, I mean, I don't really believe in ghosts, so why wouldn't I go, you know? Which sounds really silly in retrospect, but honestly, I was like, I don't really believe in spooks and ghosts and goblins, so if I go to the middle of a cemetery and play with a Ouija board, nothing bad is gonna happen to me. Like, I don't really care. So Halloween night comes, and me and the squad pull up to this this cemetery, right? And there's snow on the ground. It's looking all spooky. I'm pretty sure at one point I saw half the Ghostbusters just marauding through the cemetery, doing what they gotta do to put those ghosts down. You know, who you gonna call? And one of my friends, who I'll name Lauren for the purpose of this story, pulls out this Ouija board. And most of the Ouija boards that I've ever seen in high school and stuff were very clearly bought at Target like a week ago, you know? Like, they ain't got no realness to them, okay? They're made out of cardboard. I'm pretty sure if you flipped it over, you could see the Fruit Loop box that they were cut out of. Like, you can just pretty obviously tell that this is not a real old Ouija board. Like, no spirit is getting summoned with something that you and your mom bought in bulk at Costco, all right? Like, something tells me ghosts just really ain't messing with any of that. And this wasn't one of those, okay? She pulled out what I could only describe as something that probably was a ghost, like probably had a damn spirits of its own. This thing is like obsidian, and it's made out of, you know, emeralds. Like, I'm pretty sure at one point it started casting Harry Potter spells when she took it out, and I'm like, oh, okay, that definitely looks a little bit creepier. And as I said, at the time, I was like, I don't believe in none of this, like, whatever. Even if it looks spooky, even if she got it at a thrift shop, I really don't think that it's possible to communicate with ghosties. I know some of you guys out there are probably some big ghost fans, and at the time, I was just like, sorry, none of this is real. So we get it set up, and the girl who brought the Ouija board, Lauren, starts telling us about how she got this Ouija board at an estate sale from a witch in her hometown, and I'm like, oh, we got witches now, huh? So not only are we going to be talking to ghosts, but on top of that, we're going to be just like chilling, talking to some witches, letting us know how Hogwarts was. Come on, like, how gullible do you think I am, all right? But she's going on about how this Ouija board contains spirits and can communicate with things on the nether plane, and on October 31st, it's the prime time to talk to spirit, yada, yada, yada. Scary stories to tell in the dark when a bunch of kids are gathered around a campfire at camp when they're 6. It's a very spooky, scary skeleton type of story. So whatever, we start doing our thing, and I'm just kind of watching the people with their hands on the board. I didn't put my hand on the board mainly because she did this huge speech about how it only works if everybody with their hands on the board believes, and I was like, yeah, all right, probably not me, because I've seen enough 80s movies about hunting ghosts to know that this is probably just not real. Like, come on, let's be honest here. I've seen enough 80s movies about ghost busting and demons to know that this is all cap. So I basically am just kind of watching it go down, and sure enough, the board starts moving. Ooh, and basically they're like, who are you? What are you? And it essentially boils down to it's a demon, right? She's like, oh my gosh, we're communicating with a demon. And everybody in the circle starts freaking out. And I'm still just sitting here laughing because I'm like, guys, come on. Why would a demon be chilling with us on Halloween in the middle of a cemetery when it could be doing anything else? But whatever, no big deal. So after a little bit, they like close communications or whatever, and they're like, Ryan, you have to try it. It's crazy. I didn't believe in it, and then I started doing it. I'm like, yeah, okay, let's totally talk to a demon. Oh, that's terrifying. Whatever. Fine, I'll do it. And she's like, you have to believe. And I'm like, fine, I'll pretend to believe. Like, whatever. Maybe I'm smarter than a demon. I'm gonna trick a demon, okay? So at this point, this is where things start to get scary. Like, up until this, I'm kind of making fun of them. I'm like, oh yeah, there's totally a demon. So we do our thing, and she reopens communication with this demon, right? And I'm just not taking it seriously. I'm asking it stupid questions. I'm like, what's your favorite Pop-Tart flavor? And I was goofing off, and then the thing starts moving, and I'm not moving it. Like, I swear to God, I swear on our channel, my channel, that I was not moving the talking thing. I'm not moving it, and it starts moving, and it's like, basically says something along the lines of, like, not funny. Like, in less words, but basically I got a very good idea that I should not be joking around. And I don't believe in ghosts, but when something starts moving without my hand on it, I'm like, all right, I'm just not down with this, okay? It could have been somebody else pushing it, but at this point, I'm getting a little bit more scared than I was before. Like, in all things considered, I was really confident that this was stupid before, and I'm only like half confident that this is stupid now, right? And so I'm kind of getting scared, and I'm like, all right, I don't think this is true. Like, I don't believe this. Like, come on, like, this can't be true. This is not real. It's just not real. Like, it's just not gonna happen. So I just kind of started being like, this isn't real, and Lauren says, ask it to prove that it's real. And I'm like, all right, if you're real, then, and it was a pretty windy night, it's Halloween, I go, if you know, if you're real, then stop the wind. And as soon as I said that, I am not, like, guys, listen, like, I don't believe in spookies, but I can't make this up, bro. It might have just been coincidence. I hope it's coincidence. I've told myself it's coincidence ever since it happened. As soon as I go, then make the wind stop, everything stops. Like, have you ever been somewhere where beforehand it's windy, you can hear birds chirping, you can hear things going on, and then all of a sudden it just goes deathly silent, and you can just feel that something wrong is in the air? That's exactly what happened. Not only does the wind stop, we stopped hearing trick-or-treaters, we stopped hearing all of these things. Like, any ambient noise grinds to a halt. Everything is absolutely still. And at this point, I am not enjoying myself. I'm freaking out just a smidgen. It's all fun and games until you ask something to stop the wind, and the wind actually stops, all right? So, you know, not having been a believer in anything before this, I'm kind of like, all right, I apologize to the demon. I literally go, yo, I'm sorry for acting like this was a joke. I didn't think you were real. Like, I'm apologizing, bruh. And I'm like, but yeah, we should close this communication now, okay? So Lauren closes it again, and we're all sitting there, and I ask everybody, just to make sure I'm not tripping, I'm like, when I asked for everything to stop, everything stopped, right? And they're like, oh my God, I thought I was the only one who noticed. Like, I didn't want to freak anybody out, but I'm telling you, Ryan went make the wind stop, and literally everything just grinded to a halt. So at this point, I know that I'm not delusional. I'm not experiencing things. And I'm like, okay, all right, maybe, just maybe, I might have made a demon a little bit upset. This is why you shouldn't mess with a Ouija board. But it doesn't end there. What happened next is way worse. You see, the reason I knew all these people, everybody that was there, is in college I did this weird class thing, and I basically had the class with the same people for 4 hours a day. So we had just gotten close through class. Like, we had just become friends, right? There's really not much you can do about it. That's just the reality of the situation. So the next day, I get into class, and somebody starts talking about this dream that they had. And I hadn't told anybody this, but I had a dream that we were in the same cemetery. But this time, when the wind stopped, this shady figure kind of appeared out of the ground and threatened us, right? And, you know, I just woke up and I was like, wow, that's weird. Sometimes you dream about things that associated with you in your dream. But I'm sitting in this class, and suddenly one of the other people that was there says, man, I had this weird dream that we were in the cemetery, and when Ryan asked for all the wind to stop, this creature, and describes like the shadowy figure that I saw, came out of the ground and threatened us. And my eyes get huge, right? Like, I'm like, oh no, oh no, oh no. And then what happens, ladies and gentlemen, is everybody that had been there for the Ouija board thing admits to having the same dream where we were sitting there, and then when me, the idiot who for some reason wants to square up with demons, was like, prove that you exist, huh? And so our friend Lauren, the Ouija board girl, obviously is like, okay, we've all had the dream. If anything else happens, you know, we need to just be honest and tell everybody. But for the most part, he's probably just playing tricks on us. It's no big deal. And I was like, okay. And after that, nothing else happened. And like I said, there's a very strong possibility that this could have just been a group delusion. We all collectively tripped out. But all I'm saying is that all of us felt the wind stop. All of us had the same dream. And I'm freaking out, bro. Like, now I'm convinced that it's going to come back for its revenge from 2 years ago and possess my soul. But on that note, guys, that's going to do it for this special spooky Halloween edition of Scrubs. Hopefully you enjoyed. I know a lot of you guys are in the comments right now like, you're an idiot, none of this happened. And, you know, I really do hope that I am tripping. Like, I hope it was just a group delusion, because that would make me sleep better tonight. Halloween has never been like my giant holiday, okay? Like, Halloween has never been something that I'm incredibly into, mainly because I'm one of those people that gets terrified of like everything scary, okay? One time I accidentally watched Scream when I was 6, and I could not sleep for a week, okay? Like, I am a little baby when it comes to anything scary. So Halloween has never been the holiday that I get super hyped for. Like, I'm never sitting there shaking in my giblets over the fact that Halloween is approaching. But a lot of my friends when I went to college were pretty into the whole Halloween thing. You know, they were a little edgy, a little mysterious. They had that edge to them that everybody enjoys, and they were super hyped for Halloween, and they were all gonna go out and do all this fun stuff. And, you know, I don't really like Halloween, like I said. I mean, I don't hate it, but it's like just not a special day to me. It's just another day for me personally, okay? I'm not saying it's the worst. It was a lot more fun when I was trick-or-treating, but apparently when you're 20, it's weird and inconsiderate to steal all the kids' candy. So whatever. I wasn't a big fan of Halloween in college. So that day, that morning, I'm hanging out with a couple of my friends in one of their dorm rooms, and we're just chilling there, having ourselves a good time, playing some FIFA, doing what we got to do to pass the time eloquently before they were all going out that night. And I was just going to go chill in the dorm room and watch some Netflix in my dorm room. So we're in our friend's dorm room, and everybody starts saying, oh my God, look out the window. Oh my God, look out the window. So we look out the window, and the way that their dorm is situated, you could see across the entire courtyard. And at the other end of the courtyard, like by the end of the road, there was an Elmo, somebody in an Elmo costume just standing there staring at us. And we're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I think it's funny. I'm like, haha, very funny. It's Halloween. And then my friend says, no, look. And he pulls up binoculars, which I don't know. I guess my friend had binoculars. That should have been a hip that something was amiss. But I look in the binoculars, and the guy is standing there in this Elmo suit with a knife. And we're like, oh my God, what the heck? Like, that's so crazy that Elmo is there. Like, what is going on? So whatever, we're just kind of laughing at it, looking at it, and it like gestures and waves at us, and then like it disappears a little bit later. It just walks away, and we're like, whoa, that was creepy, that was weird. And all of our friends were in the dorm room, okay? And the people that weren't in the dorm room had to work, like they had Snapchatted me from work or been gone. So whatever, I don't really think much of it. I just kind of am like, oh, somebody was out on Halloween goofing around trying to scare people by dressing up as Elmo with a knife. You know, no big deal, no harm, no foul. It's not anybody I know. It's not any of my friends. It's not going to get near me. It's somebody who just went home because they realized that walking around in an Elmo costume with a knife is probably a pretty good way to catch some charges, or at least that's what makes sense to me. So whatever, we go back to playing video games, and I completely forget about Emo Elmo, which is how I'll be referring to him for the rest of this story. I'm like, yeah, know, that's crazy that Emo Elmo went home. You know, maybe he went to go get some help. His parents realized that him walking around like that probably wasn't good for the brand image of Sesame Street, so they took him back home. I don't really know what you do with Emo Elmo. All I know is that I hope he gets the professional help that he needs, you know? I don't want Elmo going out in a hail of gunfire. I like Elmo the way that he is, very happy with his goldfish. That's the goals, all right? That's where I want Elmo to stay. So, whatever. My friends a little bit later are like, hey, man, let's go get some food. Let's head over to Chick-fil-A and get some grub. And you know me, I ain't never gonna say no to Chick-fil-A because I'm not a communist. And I'm like, yeah, sure. So we go to get Chick-fil-A, and on the way back, we walk outside. And sure enough, standing about 200 feet away this time, is Elmo standing there with a sign that says Ryan. And at this point, I'm like, ha, very funny, guys. This is hilarious. So funny, ha. Emo Elmo is hunting me down. I'm the only person that hates Halloween, and isn't it weird that suddenly there's a serial killer after me and only me, whatever. So I'm like, wow, so funny. I wonder which one of my friends it is. And then I look to my left and my right, and my friends that were with me to get Chick-fil-A are gone. They are running the other direction, okay? And at this point, I realize, maybe that's a sign that this is not a good thing, and I start running after them. So they're sprinting, we're sprinting, and the Elmo doesn't chase after us at all. It just stands there with that creepy little look and those dead eyes, standing there with his knife, which I hope he uses to spread mayo on his ham and cheese sandwich when he had lunch that day, because otherwise I bet you his sandwich was pretty dry. So we get back to their dorm room, and at this point I am profusely shitting myself, because I am apparently being targeted by Emo Elmo that is creepily standing across the world from my dorm room, or my friend's dorm room, staring at me, and then knew that I was getting lunch and came to stare at me again. And I'm like, oh my god, bro, like somebody's playing a prank on me. And even if they're playing a prank, I don't even care, bro. I'm still scared because, like I said, I am a scaredy cat, dude. I hate being scared so much. It is my least favorite thing in the world. The feeling of being scared, I would put on par with stubbing your toe repeatedly into a knife that was positioned under your toenail, okay? Like, that's how much I hate being scared. So, whatever. The rest of the day, nothing happens with Emo Elmo. I'm safe to just sit there and stew in my fear and be terrified, right? And anyways, we go back to my dorm room at some point, and we're hanging out there. And the rest of my friends are like, all right, we're going to go out for Halloween. We know you're not going to come because you don't really vibe with the holidays, so have fun. And I'm like, yeah, all right, guys, have fun. So I say goodbye to all my friends, and I decide to clean my room. So I'm sending all of them, like, Snapchats about how cleaning my room is going and how, like, wow, I didn't realize that I'm such a pig. I don't know if you guys have ever done that before. You ever been cleaning a room and realized that you live like, I don't know, Pigpen from Charlie Brown, like the kid that walks around with a cloud of nasty gas behind him? Like, sometimes I'm cleaning my room and I really do get disgusted with myself. I hope I'm not the only one that's ever felt that way. Otherwise, that's hashtag not relatable. So whatever, I Snapchat them this big bag of trash that I'm gonna have to take out to the trash, and they're like, be careful and watch out for Emo Elmo. And I'm like, haha, very funny. Shit, now I'm kind of scared. So like, I'm tactically exiting my building, all right? I'm looking through all the windows to make sure that I don't see Emo Elmo. I'm not trying to take any chances, you know? I creep over to the dumpster, and the dumpster is in like this separate building. I'm so scared of Emo Elmo at this point that I throw this giant bag of trash over it. And when I throw it over, I hear it like plop into the trash can, and I'm like, oh. And so I start to go walking back to the dorm. I start to go walking back towards the dorm. Keep in mind, the entire time, all the hairs on the back of my neck are standing up. I am terrified. I just have a bad feeling that something's about to go down. And as I round the corner to go back to the door to my building from being where the dumpster is, right? Who is standing there in front of the door but Emo Elmo with this freaking knife, bro? And I see him, and I just go, oh, hell no. And I start running back the other way. And I look over my shoulder about 10 feet further in my run. Like, I had started running, and I look back over my shoulder, and Emo Elmo is nowhere. He is gone. He has vanished. And at this point, I'm like, oh, all right, this is how I die, you know? Like, I'm perfectly okay with this. This is just how I go out. There's nothing I can do about it. And that's when I see he is creeping up the cars and has been getting closer to me the entire time, where I'm like, he vanished and he's going to pop up behind me and stab me at any moment. So I'm freaking out, and I start to run again. And now Emo Elmo has left his creepy car maneuver and is just sprinting after me. I am being chased around the parking lot of my dorm by a grown man in an Elmo costume with a knife. And I'm like, oh my god, like, this is how it ends. This is how my life comes to a close. So I go to run up these stairs, and I trip and I fall
fall up the stairs, and I remember turning over, and Emo Elmo is getting closer to me, right? And he walks over to me, he's standing over me with a knife, and he swings it down, and I'm like, ah! I'm literally screaming as loud as I can, and the knife hits my skin and, like, plunges in, but not in. Like the knife caves in on itself, and I hear laughing from inside, like, the Elmo hat, and it takes it off. And it was my friend that had been at work and had Snapchatted me from work that day. They had decided that since I'm so scared of being scared, that they would all do their best to scare me all day. Most people's friends, you know, support them, help them study for exams, you know, help them get ready for life. No, my friends went, Ryan hates to be scared, so let's get somebody in a full-blown Elmo costume to chase him with a knife all day. So I'm like, what? Why? Why Elmo out of everything? That was my first question. Why would you dress up in an Elmo suit out of everything to scare me? And he goes, I had it. As if that's a common explanation. Like, well, I had an Elmo costume, so my only option was pretend to be a murderous cartoon character chasing after you all day. And I'm like, bro, not cool. And then everybody stops and looks down, and they're like, oh, Ryan, how scared were you? And I was like, I probably pissed my pants. And they went, no, you did. And I looked down, and sure enough, you know, not my proudest moment, I had pissed my pants. And look, I'm not going to deny it. That's embarrassing. I'm taking an L. I am taking an L on the internet. I admit it. But if you had an Elmo standing over the top of you with a knife coming down into you, you'd probably piss your pants too. And if you lie, then you're a liar. And I'm not going to take it for real because you guys would all pee too.
So I had a friend who was pretty attractive, I'm not gonna lie. She was a solid 12 out of 10, and when I met her in college, she was dating this dude who I would only describe looked like a 4. You know, I don't know what it was about him, but she was absolutely head over heels with him, and she was super, super attractive. And like I said, he was not the best looking guy ever. Like, she was super out of his league, and people would always be asking her, you know, what do you like about him? And she would just go on and on about how he was the nicest guy ever, and how he was just so sweet and so caring. And I don't know, I really liked them as a couple because it really went to show you that she wasn't shallow, and she was definitely more invested in who he was as a person compared to just like his physical appearance. And I thought that was super dope of her. God, if I could talk, that would help with storytelling. I thought that was super dope of her. So, you know, me and her became friends. We had some classes together, and naturally, you know, she would talk about her relationship a lot because they had just moved in together. They were having a great time living together for the first time. And I don't know, she just wanted somebody to talk to, and I would listen. And no, before anyone asked, I was not trying to put the moves on her. I was not trying to break them up. That's not what I was about. Her and I were actually really good friends, and there's no way we'd ever be compatible if we dated because she's like people who are organized and by the book, and I dropped out of college to pursue internet fame, so that would not have gone together very well. Like, I hate to break it to you, I would probably be a bad boyfriend if you like structure and things that make sense, because I don't make a lot of it. But whatever, she seemed super, super happy in her relationship, and she would tell me a lot about it, you know. And getting towards the end of college, and we stopped having classes together, I didn't see her as much, but we still had each other's phone numbers, and she would text me and call me sometimes and just catch up, because her and I did, you know, we spent a lot of time together. We had classes together, we would help each other with homework, we'd help each other write essays, and we just had a very good friendship, and I enjoyed our friendship. And therefore, when we skipped classes or like didn't have classes together anymore, we did our best to keep in touch enough to stay involved in each other's lives. We were no longer best friends by any means. Like, I was not showing up at her wedding, but it was definitely a good situation. And she seemed super duper in love with her boyfriend. Like, nothing would ever be able to tear them apart. If a black hole came here and had one of them gripped in its gravitational pull, they would rip each other's arms off before they were split up. Like, that's how much they were in love with each other. I didn't know him super well, but I could tell that she was crazily in love with this guy, and it would take something super drastic for them to break up. So when I got a text from her saying that she was single, I knew that there had to be an absolutely nutty story to go with it, because she was so in love with the guy the last time I really hung out with her that I was just in shock. So I immediately start asking her if she's okay, if she needs anything, if she needs any help with anything. And she says she's staying at her friend's tonight, but I'm more than welcome to come over and hear what happened, because she just needs someone to talk to, and she knows that I know a lot about the relationship. So obviously, me being the nosy little whore that I am, I hop on to the elevator, go down a floor to her friend's like apartment dorm thing, walk in, and she's just a sobbing mess, like sobbing uncontrollably. So I hug her and I'm trying to calm her down, and only bits and pieces of words are coming out, and she's like, pictures, sleeping, and I'm like, okay, hey, calm down. So I make her take some deep breaths. We're just talking about normal things, how her day was. And after about an hour of trying to calm her down, she's finally calm enough to tell us what's going on. And me and her friend who she was staying with had no idea what's going on because she was a sobbing mess way before I got there. She's like, I don't even know what's happening. Her friend had no clue what was going on because she was just crying the entire time. There was nothing coming out of her mouth that made any sense. So of course I'm like expecting the worst, like she found a dead body or something. Something that's making you this upset has to be pretty brutal. And so she's really calm and she just says, I found something on his computer that I don't even know what to think about. And I broke up with him. And I'm like, okay, well, what happened? Can you take us to the beginning? Can you walk us through what happened? Just trying to get an idea of what's going on. Because it's not every day that you walk into a dorm room to a girl in the middle of the floor crying so hysterically she can't get words out of her mouth, saying creepy things after you thought she was super in love with her boyfriend and nothing was ever going to be able to tear them apart. Like, I don't even know what I've just walked into here, but I feel like, you know, when the doctor or the police officer walks into the insane asylum and the person's like saying things that don't make sense, but later in the movie they make sense. Like, that's what the vibe I'm getting here. I'm feeling like I'm about to walk into a situation where I'm going to end up either crucified in a weirdo serial killer's house or I'm going to solve the crime. One of the two, but those are the two possibilities that I've got going on here. So when she calms down and finally starts telling her story, this is what I can gather. So her and her boyfriend live together, obviously, and I guess they live together. They sleep together in the same bed because that's what you do. I don't know, okay? They sleep together in the same bed. That's what matters. So anyways, him and her were cuddling, and he fell asleep while they were watching a movie on his laptop, right? And the laptop was plugged into the TV, but it was just duplicating the display. Like, it wasn't, like, set up as a second monitor, so everything, all the notifications, the bottom taskbar, all of that, she could see from laying in bed. And if you ever have, like, had an annoying Microsoft product, this thing called OneDrive, and basically it asks you to back up your photos and pictures every blah, 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 blah. It's really annoying. I've turned mine off, but a lot of people who don't really get computers very well don't know how, and every now and then it'll get an alert, like, would you like to back up your photos and videos now? So whatever, that pops up while she's watching a movie, and he's asleep, and she's like, oh, that thing in the bottom of the corner is getting annoying, because I guess OCD, when something pops up on your computer screen, sometimes you just want it off the screen. That's just a matter of fact. When things pop up and you're trying to watch Netflix, it puts a hamper on your mood, and no one likes hampers. So she got up to just press the tab out button. It's like a little arrow. When you click it, it goes away. Except, I guess, I don't know, she sneezed something. I to this day cannot tell you exactly what happened. She ended up clicking yes, like verify photos, videos. I don't know what the exact wording of the prompt is, but basically what it does is it takes you to a screen where you can see all the photos and videos you have in the folders on your laptop to pick which ones you want to back up. And if you've ever seen little thumbnails on a computer, you can kind of tell what the image is, but not really. And she sees a lot of like the same thing, like over and over and over and over and over again. And so she's like, wow, that's weird. I wonder what it is. And it's dark, but she can make out the outline of like a person, right? So she obviously is curious. So she clicks it, but that just decides to back it up to OneDrive. So she decides that she's going to have to get onto his PC and go manually check the files. So she opens up the photos and double clicks one, and she's weirded out because it's a picture of her sleeping, right? Like, it's a picture of her sleeping in her bed, not with her boyfriend there. And she clicks the next one, and it's another picture of her sleeping, and another one of her sleeping, and another one of her sleeping. And since they moved in together, he had taken a picture of her sleeping alone every night. And I'm sorry, but that is some real serial killer vibes. Like, I don't care how in love with the girl you are. It wasn't just like a, you looked so cute while you were sleeping. It was a methodical, same position, same time, every single night for months on end, almost a year on end, of him just taking pictures of her sleeping. That is creepy. That is weird. I don't care who you are or what your explanation is. That's never okay ever. So obviously that freaked her out, right? That was just a photo called Sleep, or the album, like the folder. The folder which had all the photos in it was called Sleep. So she goes back, and there's a folder called Class. There's a folder called Walking. There's a folder called Exercise. I can't talk. I'm so sorry. And she's opening these, and it's just pictures of her doing things. It's pictures of her sitting in class. It's pictures of her sitting next to me in class. It's pictures of her sitting next to her friend in class. It's pictures of her just sitting in class, taken from like outside the window of our classrooms or outside the door, any way he could get a picture, and it's like with a nice camera. And at this point, she's realizing her boyfriend is stalking her. The guy she's in love with, the 4 out of 10 with the 12 out of 10 that you know, miraculously pulled this super amazing girl, is stalking her, taking pictures of everything she does, everyone she hangs out with, every movement. Same thing every time she goes to the gym, there's a picture. Every time she's eating food, there's a picture. There's pictures of her doing basically everything outside of very specific scenarios. Like, there's no bad pictures, like, you guys know what I'm talking about.
There's none of that. It's just her doing normal everyday things that she wouldn't notice. Like, he just got a thrill out of taking pictures of her when she wasn't paying attention. And that's when it gets weirder. He sees the folder called old, and he has them of his old girlfriend in the same thing, sleeping, walking, working out. He had just been taking pictures of every girl he dated when they weren't, like, knowing he was taking pictures. So she's like scared as hell, because imagine finding out the person you've been sleeping next to for the past 9 months to almost a year has been stalking you and taking pictures of you when you don't know that they're there, and then has pictures of you, his ex-girlfriend, all these different folders, clearly methodically planned out. Like, it wasn't just like, I take pictures of you. It was weird. It was a weird, creepy thing. So she starts crying, and he wakes up and sees what she's looking at, and he gets mad. He's like, why are you going through my things? Starts yelling at her, trying to, like, not fight her, but just trying to be like, oh, you don't know what you're seeing. I can explain. And she's like, no, there's no explanation for stalking me. I'm sorry. There's no possible explanation for what you're doing that doesn't end with me breaking up with you and never talking to you again. Like, it's just not possible, because you're psycho and you're stalking me. And he gets mad at her, and he's like, no, please don't leave. Like, we can talk this out. We can work on it. And she said she just grabbed her jacket, ran outside, called her best friend, and texted me, and now she's here. So like an hour ago, she found out the guy she was crazily in love with has been stalking her and his other girlfriends, taking pictures of them when they don't know about it, and then organizing them in folders. And the worst part is backing them up to OneDrive. Who the hell uses OneDrive? Obviously that was a joke, but like, she is clearly so shaken up about this. So after this has happened, it starts coming out more and more through the night as she's talking about her relationship that this dude was like super mentally abusive, like gaslighting her, confusing her on purpose, trying to make her not talk to her family anymore. Like, this dude was a straight up creeper. And what she says is like, I would constantly tell everyone I was so happy because I wanted to be happy. Because at the start of their relationship, he was normal, he wasn't crazy, but over time he just got crazier. And she's like, I wanted to be happy. I wanted people to believe in me because my parents didn't want us to be together. My friends didn't like him very much back home. So when I got here, I tried to make the relationship sound as great as possible. So that way people would be like, see, look, I'm happy. Look at how happy I am. See, this wasn't a bad idea at all. And I mean, obviously, she ended up with an absolutely insane person who no one should ever want to be with, ever. But that's what she was doing. He was like abusing her, and she just wanted to be happy so bad and prove everybody wrong that didn't like him, that she stayed with this whack job who was stalking her, just taking pictures of her, I don't know, walking the dog, doing the dab, I don't know. So yeah, she ended up moving in with her friend until the end of semester, which is only like 2 weeks, and sleeping on her floor. Her boyfriend was understandably not happy with the situation, but didn't have the balls to go near her or do anything, because everyone she was friends with was like, yeah, no, this is not how this is going to go down. We are definitely not going to let you near her, because that is the worst idea I've ever heard in my entire life. Now, this is a story I found on the internet that I thought was absolutely insane. Like, this is one of those that makes me scared to leave my house at night. It's about fake cops that came and arrested a lady in LA, and no one has seen her since. That's right. They just dressed up as cops, walked up to the house. Ayo, girl, let me get your number. Under arrest, and then she went missing. This is the type of thing that makes me never want to leave my house again. Like, every now and then I'll watch a YouTube video or read a story about a crazy serial killer or some crazy person, and it definitely makes my fear of humanity that much higher, and this one was definitely one of them. So get ready to buckle up and get ready for the wild ride, and without further ado, let's do it. So in the early 1980s, there was these two guys that lived in the Hollywood Hills, you know, right by Ricegum. I was broke, but I'm living in the hills now. You know how it be sometimes when you make it and you want to spend your 1980s YouTube money on a mansion in the hills, right? So whatever, it's the early 80s, everybody's on cocaine, everybody's got big poofy hair, and most importantly, everybody is supposed to be having fun. It's the 80s, nothing bad happened in the 80s, come on, my parents grew up in the 80s, and they always tell me how great it is, so nothing bad could ever happen. So whatever, it's Hollywood Hills in the 80s, it's around 9 p.m., it's dark enough where like the sun's down, but it's not so dark where it's 3 in the morning and anybody that knocks on your door is more than likely a serial killer who's just gonna try to do their best to absolutely destroy every shred of safety and dignity that you have left in your body, you know? That's not what most people are going for out here, but you gotta be careful answering the door late at night anyways. So these two guys that live in the Hollywood Hills get a frantic pounding on their door at like 9 p.m., the type of pounding that makes you scared, something like this.
Like that's the type of sound that they're getting on their door. Just frantic banging. And so obviously they're a little nervous. So they go together and they open the door, and this is what they see. They open the door, and standing there is this girl who's pretty normally dressed with clean clothing, and she's hysterical. She's crying. She's screaming about, there's so much blood. There's so much blood. But like they said, she's dressed pretty normal and she's pretty clean. So they're like, hey, all right, we'll let her in. So she's telling the story about seeing somebody get stabbed in the street and how, like, oh my gosh, there was so much blood. She's still hysterical. She's not calming down. She's still having a mental breakdown. They have no idea what's going on. So they're trying to calm her down. She's on the couch. They put a blanket on. They're like, hey, calm down, calm down, calm down. It's okay. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Like, it's okay. Everything's going to be fine. And she's still freaking out, swearing that they're going to come for her, that they saw her see the stabbing, like they're going to come hunt her down. It's a scenario that's not too good for anybody. She's hysterical. She's convinced that she's going to get hunted down by whatever crime she witnessed. And these two guys are sitting in the house like, well, I don't want to get hunted down for a crime that I didn't witness. That's not fun for me. So they're trying to calm her down, and they finally decide that they just need to call the police. Clearly, this girl has a couple screws loose. There's no blood on her. There's no way she actually saw somebody get stabbed. We'll call the police. Clearly, it's a mental issue. They'll come get her. They'll take her home. They'll identify her, and everything will be fine. So she calls the police, or he calls the police. The owner of the house, whoever it is, they didn't really say a gender, calls the police. And it's on recording in LA in the 1980s. They call and say, hey, we have a girl here who's frantic. Here's our address. She apparently saw a stabbing. We don't know what to do. We think she's making it up. Can you send an officer to come get her? We don't want to put her back out on the street because we don't think she'd be safe, but can someone come get her? Like, it's on recording in the 80s that they called 911 and said these words, right? Like, on recording, verifiable that they called 911. The police officers got this call. So, whatever, basically, the guys are just sitting there. They're waiting for the police to come. The girl finally starts to calm down, and she's like, oh, okay, I'll go with the police. They'll take me home. They'll make sure I'm safe. Everything is going to work out. Everything's going to be fine. So once she starts calming down, they write down her information. She gives them her address, her name, everything about her. Like, they have all this information on her, and the police have it on file. Like, this is verifiable that they have all the information that she wrote down, the address, everything. So she calms down. She's like, this is where I live, and they're like, all right, we'll call and check up on you tomorrow. And I know you're thinking it's a little weird that they have all this information, but think about it this way. A lady knocks on your door hysterical, claims she saw a stabbing, the cops are coming to get her, and you get her information. That way you can figure out what happened, just in case you need to get in contact, just in case the police have to find her, whatever it may be. It's probably a good idea to get her information. So 20 minutes later, the cops come and knock on the door, and they give the information to the police. They're like, oh, here's this person, here's that person, here's that person. They're like, hold on, let me go back to the squad car and call. They walk back to a squad car and call. And keep in mind, this is the LAPD. That's the uniform they're wearing. And they come back and say that she was reported missing by her mother and that she's schizophrenic. And the guys are like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. She's schizophrenic, so she's having delusions. She's seeing things. That's why she's convinced that somebody got stabbed. She's just like having multiple personalities telling her that something's going on. So whatever, she has a mental condition. She lives up the street. They're just going to take her home. These are uniformed officers with a police car. So the guys give the girl to her, and the girl's like, all right, fine. She leaves willingly with these police officers because they're police officers and you don't think that anything is going to happen. So whatever, they think that's the end of it. They go back to hanging out, and around 30 minutes after she leaves, they get another knock on the door. This time it's two different cops, and they're responding to the call. Like, they're the ones that are coming to say, all right, let's see the missing lady. So they give all the information, and they're like, hey, you guys just picked her up. Two cops already came and picked her up. And they're like, oh, that's weird. Let me go check. So these two cops go back to the squad car and give a call back to the dispatch. There's no computers right now. They have to call and do everything manually. And sure enough, nobody at dispatch has any idea of two cops in the area other than these two. These were the two that they sent to check on the situation, meaning that the other two cops that took the girl were not real. So the cops at this point are curious if these two guys who they came to the house of just like killed the girl and are trying to cover it up. So they asked to search the house, and the guys are like, yeah, of course, absolutely. They search the house up and down. They search the backyard. They check everything. They're like, all right, well, there's nothing here, so we don't know the deal. They send back a crime lab. The FBI comes in, not the FBI, but like crime scene comes out to see if there's any blood or anything. There's nothing. So everybody's freaking out. There's radio conversations. They're taking information. They're taking descriptions of the officers. They have no idea how any other cops could have possibly picked her up because every cop was slammed until the last 20 minutes. There's no way anybody could have come to pick her up. And keep in mind, this is the same department. It's not like, LAPD came to get her and then, like LA County PD came later. No, it's the same police department. Their cops did not come get her at all. And keep in mind, this is the girl who claimed that they were going to come find her because she witnessed the stabbing. Isn't that like, dude, I'm getting chills down my spine just thinking about it. Meaning that these people who did this crime or whatever knew where she was, knew that they had called the police, somehow intercepted the police call. Like, that's what's weird too. They called 911 and then 20 minutes later, fake cops show up at your door ready to go, waited the appropriate amount of time with all the information from the call, but they weren't even cops. We have no idea how in the world they got the information, no idea who gave them the information. All we know is that the girl is now missing. They give her the information. They've checked the house. They know they're not guilty. And now this girl just vanished into thin air with fake police officers. So they give the police all the information and they go to the girl's house to see if, maybe the police officers just didn't report it. And sure enough, nobody's in the house and there's signs of a break-in. What, like, this is so scary, dude. So they go to the girl's house and it's been broken into and ransacked and basically anything of value and anything of importance is gone. So this girl goes with these fake cops and they go to her house to see if she's there, and the house has been ransacked, and there's literally nothing left. Like, everything that was in the house is now gone. And so the police at this point know they have a crime on their hands. They don't know who the fake cops were, how they got any information, how they got the 911 call, how they knew the address, how they knew how to dress. All they know is that this girl is very clearly missing. So they start a missing persons report. They have her name. They contact her family. They contact everybody. Nobody has any idea where she is. She had just poofed into thin air, and ever since the 80s, nobody has seen her since. And if that doesn't make you freaked out, I don't know what will. Fake cops came, kidnapped this girl that apparently witnessed a stabbing and was afraid people were going to come after her, ransacked her apartment, and then she was never seen or heard from again. I don't know if it was the Illuminati or what, but all I know is that is some next level terrifying stuff to think about. That one day you can just be chilling, waiting for the police to come get you. Next thing you know, fake police come and kidnap you. That's gotta be one of the scariest things I've ever heard. So when I was in like the summer between 7th and 8th grade, my parents really wanted us to, become one with nature and see the country or whatever. So they decided that we were going to get dragged on this road trip to Yellowstone. And I live in Las Vegas. I've grown up in Las Vegas my entire life. And it's about a 3-day drive. If you do it, like pretty long drives at a time. But my parents wanted us to have, this couple week long road trip. So they basically decide that we're going to drive 4 hours a day and then stop and stay in crappy motels and, have ourselves a great time on this family vacation. And obviously, at the time, I was not too hyped on the idea because when they told us this, they also told us that they were going to be taking away our phones for the duration of the trip to force us to bond as a family. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, like, it's cool to bond with your family and all, but I was a 12-year-old and the only sibling still at home was only 5, so I don't know what type of conversations I'm gonna have with him. Are we gonna, like, greatly dissect why the alphabet is in order for a specific reason? And it's not like I have much in common with my parents, no offense, but they're kind of boomers, so I was not too happy about the prospect of being trapped in the car with a 5-year-old and both of my parents for weeks on end with nothing to distract myself. And it goes about as you expect. Obviously, when you're 12, you're a little bit edgy, and I'm pretty annoyed with my parents by like the end of the first day. And at the end of the first day, we were in the middle of nowhere in rural Nevada. And like in Nevada, okay, we're already not a very big state. We don't have a huge population, but even then, like 90% of the population is in like 3 cities that are all right next to each other. Or, in 2 different areas. There's a bunch of people in the north in Reno, and there's a bunch of people down south in Las Vegas. And there is nothing else in the entire state. I mean, sure, you have like a couple towns with, 3 grocery stores and 1 stoplight, but it's nothing crazy. But we're in the middle of nowhere, Nevada, and my dad, for whatever reason, didn't decide to look ahead and see where hotels were along the way. They just said, we'll wing it and stay wherever, it'll be fun.
which I mean is kind of fun, except when you can't find a motel because you're like in the middle of the desert and there's nowhere to go. And as we're driving around, it gets later and later, and at about midnight, we pull up to this motel that just looks like something where 87 people have disappeared before, okay? I genuinely thought it was closed. Half of the motel has like the roof caved in, and it's very obvious that nobody's staying in those rooms. The sign has like half of its lettering out. It's looking like somebody with like a weird stutter is trying to say the name because it keeps flashing off and on. You know that Vine where it's like, welcome to Target? It was very similar to that. It's like blinking, but in a very creepy way because it's an old sign, you know, and half the letters are out. And sure enough, my dad's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go speak to the guy. I'll be right back. And so we're chilling in the car, and I'm looking around this empty, like, motel parking lot at 1 in the morning. And 12-year-old me doesn't know a whole lot about the real world yet, but 12-year-old me knew enough to realize that people standing at windows of cars handing packages back and forth at 1 in the morning in a motel parking lot probably aren't up to much good. There were people standing outside their rooms with, like, pit bulls on chain leashes just looking angry. And overall, man, I just got the vibe that, you know, I didn't really belong here. As a kid who grew up in the suburbs, I'm not very well adapted for staying in ghetto motels, all right? So my dad comes back, and the first thing he says is that it's, you know, it's quaint is his description of it, which is an adult's way of saying it's not very nice. So we all go in and we open the door to our motel room, which still uses a key, by the way. Like, they ain't even got this card thing yet, which became standard in what, 1992, since before I was born? If something was 7 years old when I was born, then it's old, all right? I'm about to be 21 years old. I should not still be using a key to get into this room. And we open the door, and you know when something just smells old? Like that musty, dusty, mothball-esque smell that just makes you low-key want to throw up a little bit? That's what this room smells like, and it looks straight out of the 60s. The bed looks like it hasn't changed, you know? The TV is like low-key a tube TV from maybe the 80s, maybe. The picture's all dingy and faded. The light when you turn it on is like a half-dead light bulb that's flickering off and on. It legitimately looks like where a Saw victim would wake up in one of those movies. So we're in the room, and at the time when I was 12, before we had gone on this vacation, I already had like a super screwed up sleep schedule. I don't know why. I thought it was really cool to stay up till 3 in the morning, and I've never really fixed it. I've always been staying up really late. And I had to share a bed with my 5-year-old brother, which wasn't too bad, except for the fact that he just like loved to judo kick me in the side every 20 minutes while I was trying to sleep. And it doesn't help that my dad snores like a chainsaw that has been dropped on top of a clown in the circus. He's just really loud at snoring, so I'm getting kicked in the ribs by a 5-year-old every 20 minutes trying to sleep. When I am awake, my dad is snoring like a chainsaw. I'm just not getting sleep. And 12-year-old me also had this idea that I was like already mature and an adult and could handle myself, you know? I think every 12-year-old has this idea that they're low-key a grown-up. And listen, you guys are definitely at the start of becoming your own person, okay? I'm not saying you're not mature. But, you know, you're still 12, and the possibility of being kidnapped is pretty strong. But for whatever reason, I decide that I was annoyed, so I get up, I put my, like, you know, actual clothes on, I change out of my pajamas, because I was 12 and had pajamas, and I decide that I'm gonna go explore the motel. Keep in mind, I told you that it looks like a dilapidated rundown section of like Silent Hill video games, but whatever, I'm just gonna go see what's out there. So I step out and like, you know, the air's pretty warm, it's a summer night in Nevada, so I start like walking into this sketchy motel parking lot, and there really isn't much. Like I said, there's a couple dudes like smoking cigarettes with their pit bull outside their motel room, and I'm like, all right, probably not gonna go over there and bug them. So I just kind of start walking around the back of the motel, and I get around the back and I see like where the dumpsters are for the motel. And for whatever reason, 12-year-old me, you know, is like, oh, well, I guess I'll go see what's up in the dumpsters, you know? So I go over there for whatever reason. I really don't know why. And as I'm like looking in to see if there's anything cool in there, because I don't know, I get this like feeling on the back of my neck that somebody is watching me. Somebody is watching me. So I like walk out of the little room the dumpster's in. I wasn't looking in the dumpster. I just looked in that little room. I don't know why. And I look into the lobby, which you could see from the hotel, and the creepy dude who's in charge of the desk, who's like got this weird balding thing and the glasses they give people in prison, those like clear big ones. And he's just smiling at me, which is not a very nice thing. Don't get me wrong, sure, he could have just been a friendly old man smiling at the kid, looking in his dumpsters at 1 in the morning, but that was not the vibe that I got. And I immediately
just get this vibe to like leave. I need to get back to the room. I just have this bad feeling in the pit of my stomach. So I go to walk back to my room, but I have to go like past the lobby. And as I'm going past the lobby, the door opens and creepy dude comes out and he's like, "Hey." And I'm like, "Hi." You know, I don't really know what to say. I'm 12. I don't know how to interact with creepy people. Being kidnapped was not on my bucket list. And he looks at me and he gives me this like weird, he checks me out. You know what I mean? Like, you know when somebody looks you up and down and very obviously, you know, is like checking you out in a weird way. He does that and he says, "Why are you out of your room so late?" You know, which is a very weird question to ask a child at 1 a.m, I guess. Why? You know, it should be like, go back to your room. It's 1 a.m, but he's like, why are you out so late? Like the way he says it is just weird, you know? So I couldn't sleep, you know, I just was gonna see what's around. He's like, "Well, it's kind of dangerous in the parking lot at night. You should come in and you can watch TV with me in the office. I have a TV there." And like the way he says it is just weird, dude. And I'm like, you know, I'm good. I'm gonna go back to the room. I'm gonna try to go back to bed. He's like, no, come on, come watch TV. Come on, like I'll put it on Cartoon Network. And I'm like, "No, I'm really good." And he says, "No, come watch TV." And like the way he says "come watch TV" is very angry. It doesn't come off like somebody that really just wants to watch TV with you. It sounds like somebody that wants to get to a creepy motel office with a 12-year-old. And I don't really know what to do because I'm 12 and it's uncomfortable. So I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Come on, come watch TV." And I'm like, "No." And as I'm, you know, getting nervous because I'm a kid who's not knowing what to do in the situations, okay? Strange men don't come ask me to watch TV with them at 1 a.m very often and offer cartoons. It's just not something that happens. I swear, like a superhero, dude, those dudes who are smoking cigarettes come around the corner and they like look at the situation and I think they can see the fear in my eyes, which is pretty obvious. They're like, "Is this dude bothering you?" And I'm like, no. And they're kind of looking at the situation. And the guy who was, you know, in like the office is, "Oh no, I was just telling him to go back to your room. Go back to your room." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go back to my room." And I like voof to my room as fast as I can. My little 12-year-old legs are moving like a bullet, just as fast as I could to get out of there because creepy dude was really creepy. I get back to my room, I like close the door, and I just lay down in bed and I can't sleep. Like I'm sitting there wide awake and I'm hearing outside, and like as the dudes go back to, you know, smoke their cigarettes and pet their dog, they're like, "Man, that was creepy. Like that dude was whack." Because this motel sucked and the windows were about as thin as, I don't know, something thin, SpongeBob's skin or whatever. And yeah, the next morning, my dad obviously is like, "Hey, Ryan, you don't look like you got much sleep." And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't, you know, your snoring kept me up." He's like, "Oh, well, you know, at least you didn't go exploring the motel. It's kind of creepy, haha." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'm glad I didn't do that. That would be a really stupid move, Dad. That would make me a big idiot who had to get saved because I was about to definitely get yeeted on by a creepy dude in the motel office." And when we were leaving, which was pretty early in the morning to like get driving again, the dude was like in his office and stared at me the entire time I was helping my dad load up the car and like get in the car. So definitely a creepy dude. I usually, you know, am pretty chill with most people, but there was just a vibe about this man that threw me off, and no bueno. So when I was 17, there started this rumor spreading around my high school, or I didn't start it, but like I heard this rumor that was spreading around my high school about this abandoned water park that was on the way to California. I live in Vegas, and there actually is an abandoned water park on the way to California. And there started to be this rumor going around my high school that there was this cult that would go there and like perform sacrifices, and there was all this crazy stuff all over the place. And being 17 and really stupid, me and a couple of my close friends were like, "Dude, we've got to go check this out. Are you kidding me? This is straight out of Scooby-Doo." Like, you know, Shaggy and the gang would be pulling up to this abandoned water park to catch a ghost. So we decide that we're gonna go see and find if there's this cult there, like doing all these rituals or any proof of it, and be the coolest kids in school. Because obviously the entire school is talking about it, everyone's going crazy, so we're like, look, we're basically gonna be celebrities if we go here. So me and my friends decide we're gonna do this, and I have to find a reason to get out of the house. The water park is like 30-45 minutes out of town on the way to California, and we want to be there for a while. So I have to basically find a reason to convince my parents to let me go 45 minutes away from home randomly in the middle of the night with no explanation and get away with it. And crappily, this just happens to be during the time of like when iPhones were first popping. So I think I had like an iPhone 4, maybe an iPhone 5, like, but it was still new, you know? So my parents could track my location, but it was still pretty primitive and new. So we're trying to think of ways to sneak out, and we're like, all right, here's what we're gonna do. This Friday night, everyone's gonna tell their parents that we're gonna go to blah blah blah's house and stay up late, stay up all night playing D&D. Yes, I play D&D. I'm a nerd. It's actually really fun. Don't knock it till you try it, because it's just straight vibes. But when we're there, this is at the time where you could like sign in and out of your Live 360 profile or like the Find My Friends app. So we're basically like, all right, we're all gonna sign in to iPads. We had this friend who, you know, was kind of bougie and happened to have enough iPads for every member of his family to like give us enough to cover ourselves. So we sign into our iPad, so our tracker says we're at his house, and we don't tell his parents where we're going because they were asleep. They were a lot older though. He was like the youngest kid, so they're out, and we're like, all right, bet. So we hop into this car, and we realize quickly that there's not enough seats. So they basically tell me that I have to ride in the trunk of this car 45 minutes away to a water park. And because I'm young and stupid, I'm like, yeah, sure. So I climb in the trunk, and for the next 45 minutes, I'm like loudly screaming to them through the back seat to communicate, and thankfully we don't get hurt. Please don't ever do anything this stupid. The reason I'm including it is because like at the time I thought it was cool, you know, I was a teenager, no big deal, but in retrospect, now that I've grown up a little bit, don't do anything this stupid with your friends ever, okay? If there's not enough seats and seat belts, then take a different car or something, because it's definitely not worth the risk. But it just kind of paints the image for how stupid I was. So whatever, we get there to this abandoned water park, and it's pitch black, and we had only brought 2 flashlights, and for whatever reason, before we had gone to the water park or packed the flashlights, we don't decide to check the battery. We're just like, whatever, if they're flashlights, they're in the garage, they probably work. So sure enough, as luck would have it, the batteries don't work, and one does, but it's really dim. Like, it's to the point where it's more creepy than it is helpful to brighten anything up. Like, it's just enough light to make out the shape of the thing that's about to eat you before it eats you. It's not actually going to be useful for exploring this abandoned water park. So we start exploring, and because there's this like scary rumor that there's been human sacrifices and stuff, every small thing that we find we make like the biggest deal out of. And we're slowly making our way up this hill because the water slides went downhill, which makes sense saying it out loud. I'm putting 2 and 2 together. And at the top of this hill was like this little shack where people used to wait in line for this big ginormous slide. And just walking up to this, like looking at this shack on the hill, it just gave me this very evil, creepy vibe. Like, it just did not seem like the type of thing that I wanted to go see. But all my friends are hyped. They're like, no, let's go to this shack. And keep in mind, we don't have any flashlights, so it's pitch black. The only thing lighting up this water park is like the moon, and every now and then it's getting covered by clouds, and we have to stop and just sit in dark silence for minutes at a time. So I'm tired, the tension's getting to be a little much, and we're climbing up this hill to go to this like shack. And the entire time, this pit in my stomach is getting heavier and heavier. You know, it tastes like I ate some really, really, really bad Taco Bell, and I'm feeling it just inch its way down my gut before it explodes into the toilet. Like, that's a very gross way of saying this, but I'm not feeling good. Like, it's just a bad feeling. And I trust my gut a lot. I don't really know, like, why I've always trusted my gut, but I trust it a lot, and I have a bad feeling. So I'm getting nervous, but I don't want to be the person that's a wimp. So we get up to, like, right outside of this little shack, and sure enough, everybody is not brave enough to go in. And I want to get out of here, because at this point, everything in my body is telling me to run. Like, I don't know why, but my body is screaming run, but they don't want to leave till we see the shack. So I decide that I'm just gonna go in first. YOLO, blaze it, who cares? So I go in, and it smells horrible, and on the floor in like black spray paint, sure enough, is this ginormous pentagram, which freaks me out. So I back out, and I'm like, oh my god, it's a pentagram, and it smells horrible. And like everyone I'm with is like, oh my god, it's the smell of the sacrifices. And we're all freaking out, and everybody's like, low-key scared. And then we hear car doors slamming. Keep in mind, it's like midnight in the middle of the desert, 45 minutes out of town, and an abandoned water park. So immediately, everybody just hits the deck, like all of us, and it goes silent. And we're still freaking out because, we just walked into this little shack, which for whatever reasons our dumb teenage brains is convinced was used for like human sacrifices. So we hit the deck and we hear multiple car doors slamming, like a few. So I look, and sure enough, we're at the top of the hill of the water park now. I can see where we parked over to the left, and to the right, there's like 4 vans. And there are tons of people out of these vans. When I say vans, it's not like a Toyota Sienna minivan. I mean those Mercedes vans that are made to take like tourist groups across the country. And there are 4 vans of people that are emptying over like on the right-hand side of the water park. So I'm kind of like, wow, that's weird. What a weird time to take a field trip, And I'm focusing in more, and I'm looking, and as my eyes are adjusting more and I'm seeing things, I'm thinking that like they're all wearing the same thing, but I can't confirm it because, like I said, we don't have flashlights, and the only thing that's lighting things is almost out of a horror movie, is like the moon when the clouds aren't there. So sure enough, I'm kind of like, it looks like a group of people, and the clouds move away, and I realize that all of them are wearing matching robes, and I immediately just about crap my pants. So I get back down and I tell all my friends, I'm like, it's the cult, it's the cult, it's the cult. Because keep in mind, the rumor at our school is that not only is this place haunted, but there is a cult of people that comes and does human sacrifices. And here we are in the middle of the night, and it looks like a bunch of people in robes are encroaching from vans to come up to this like water park thing. Call me crazy, definitely sounds like a psycho cult coming to make human sacrifices at the place that's known for the human sacrifices. Definitely not a good vibe to be feeling when you're sitting in a pitch black shack with a bunch of other people that are also terrified because 10 seconds ago you thought you found the sacrifice room. So obviously me and my friends are terrified because we think that this cult that's sacrificing people is marching their way up the mountain to like eat us alive. So we look out and we're like, we have to get back to the car, and thankfully we're parked on the other side. So we decide that we're gonna try to like stealthily move our way back to the car and avoid this cult, because we look back out and sure enough they're walking through the water park. And the water park is pretty big, but we don't have a ton of time to plan. And keep in mind, we're all like a bunch of city kids from Las Vegas that have never really effectively avoided a cult in an abandoned water park. It's just not something that we're used to, and even if it was, we're used to like having street lights and stuff. So we turn off the flashlight and we just start sprinting in the dark back to the car, and we're falling. I think I fell down like 6 times, and as we're slowly getting closer to the cult, like we're working our way towards each other in this water park, we finally slow down and we're like, shut up, shut up, shut up. And we're laying behind like these half broken slides in this abandoned water park, trying our best to stay still as like this cult is moving by. And as they're walking by, it sounds like they're having pretty normal conversations. It's like, oh, how's the kids? Hope school is going good. How's Pete's job? Like that type of stuff. I'm not hearing anything about like, do you think the sacrifices know they're in the shack? But a bunch of people in the middle of the night wearing robes in an abandoned amusement park that you're pretty sure is haunted is definitely not the type of thing that makes you calm. Like, they could have been talking about unicorns and rainbows, and I don't care. I'm still definitely not feeling talking to people that are wearing creepy robes in the middle of the night in the middle of nowhere. I don't care if they have a good explanation. Everybody out here is stupid, myself included. Also, I'm just saying, I don't care how normal your conversation is. What type of people wear robes to an abandoned water park in the middle of the night that aren't up to no good? Like, even if they weren't down for human sacrifices, all of you wearing robes is a little bit culty. Just because people are in a cult doesn't mean that they can't be vibing and asking how Pete's job is going. Maybe they're pretty normal, who knows? And, if you are a cult, just avoid robes altogether. It does not make you look good. It definitely just adds like 90 points to the whole creepy thing. So we're basically playing hide and seek with this cult, making our way back to the car. And we get back to the car and we turn on the car, and I guess we hadn't turned the headlights off. So the headlights turn on and it's just enough to like illuminate the water park. And all the robe people are gone, but we see them gathered around the shack. And when our headlights turn on, almost like at once, the entire cult just turns with their creepy robed heads and just looks at the car. And it was straight out of a horror movie, just like 4 vans full of people in these dark robes turning and looking at us while the only thing lighting them is the moon in headlights. And immediately, as soon as some of them turn, a few of them start walking towards the car. And I'm like, no, go, step on the gas now, get out of here, go, go, go. And because we're terrified, we didn't even put me back in the trunk, so I'm just like laying across the back seat of these people's legs being like, drive, get out of here, go. So sure enough, the driver like stomps on the gas. We do this weird like in the rocks because we pulled off onto the side of the road in the middle of the desert to see this abandoned water park. You can Google it if you don't believe me. Look up Google abandoned like water park in Las Vegas and you'll see what I mean. Regardless, once we got away, obviously it kind of set in how fun some of that was. Like playing hide and seek with a cult in a lazy river is definitely not something that you get to do every day, but definitely terrifying. I really don't know what the people in robes were doing, but like I said, it can't be good. Nobody wears robes anywhere in the middle of the night for anything good ever. Like, it just doesn't happen, okay? Robes are just an evil piece of clothing, let's be honest here. Regardless, though, me and my friends did end up telling basically everybody at school about, like, you know, the fact that we low-key ran into a cult, and nobody believed us because it sounds ridiculous, and yeah, it does. I really don't know why a bunch of people decided to meet in the middle of the night in a water park in robes. Maybe they were doing human sacrifices. I highly doubt it, but maybe that rumor is there for a reason, you know? Maybe it just sounds crazy because nobody wants to believe there's a evil cult kidnapping people and taking them to water parks.
Anyways, guys, what's going on? This is going to be the time that I saw a UFO, okay? I know this makes me sound like a crazy person, and I'm not saying that I literally saw aliens. Like, I wasn't abducted or anything. I can't confirm that Chewbacca was flying the Millennium Falcon, but I did see a UFO that I have no idea what it is whatsoever, and it is a pretty weird experience, you know? When you guys are seeing this, I'm actually on vacation. I scheduled these ahead of time, so it was just a fun story that I felt like telling you guys. It's probably not getting a lot of views, but YOLO, we'll send it anyways. And yeah, let's do this. So I went to college in Utah, which is about like a 3-4 hour drive from where I grew up in Las Vegas. And I didn't really like Utah a whole bunch. I'm not going to get into like a bunch of reasons. I'll just put it this way. I like to, you know, have fun and experience life. And Utah as a state is entirely closed one day of the week. So, you know, having fun on the weekend is impossible when one of the weekends like just doesn't work in the state. So every weekend, you know, every chance I got after a while, I was like, I'm going back down to Las Vegas and chilling. So I got very familiar with the drive to and from where I was going to college. And, you know, at first I was only doing it in the day because, like, I was afraid of driving that far in the night, all that stuff. But as I got more and more comfortable as, like, college went on, I would just kind of be like, whatever, I'll just pull an all-nighter, drive, and then, like, go to class in the morning right when I get back to college. Because it was just, it let me spend more time with my friends at home, you know, and I just knew the college thing wasn't going to work out. I was making more videos when I was at home, so, like, I was really just trying to make the YouTube thing work. So any excuse to spend more time doing that and not doing schoolwork, I was taking. So I just started, like, pulling all-nighters and driving at night. Well, one day, you know, I'm driving, I think I was driving to Vegas, actually. Regardless, you guys get the idea. I would drive at night. I think I was driving back home to Vegas late for some reason. I don't really know. But sure enough, I'm the only person on the road. There's not a ton of traffic in between Utah and Nevada, especially like in the middle of the week at night when you're driving to Las Vegas. On a Friday night, it's pretty packed because everybody's leaving Utah to go party. But, like, on a Wednesday, you're pretty alone. So I think I was seeing a car maybe, like, 1-2 minutes, but it wasn't very frequent at all. And I'm not gonna lie, I was speeding. I'm not saying that speeding is okay. I'm not advocating for it. You guys just have to know how fast I was going in order for this UFO thing to be crazier. So the speed limit was 80. I think I was going 103 when I really started paying attention. And like I said, I'm speeding. Don't speed that much. That is not good. But I'm being honest. And the reason that I'm being honest is because I see these headlights behind me and they are gaining on me like fast, you know? And when I say fast, I mean like they are catching up to me, and I'm not going slow. It's not like I'm going 65 and there's a Rari going 120 flying by me, you know? I'm already going over 100 miles per hour, and this thing is coming at me at the same speed like you expect a Predator missile in Call of Duty to be flying towards the ground. This thing is moving. And as it gets closer, I'm expecting to, you know, like see a car or something. And sure enough, as it gets closer, I realize that, like, it's not even a car. I don't know what it is. I guess that's why they call it a UFO, an unidentified flying object. But I'm not kidding you. It's like two lights about headlight distance apart, flying towards me at least 200 miles an hour. Like, when I say this thing is catching up with me, it's catching up with me fast. In the amount of time it pops up, like, in my rear view mirror to the time it's over my car, I don't remember it exactly, and like I was a little freaked out, so my memory of time might not be great, but I'm gonna say like maybe 5 seconds. So it covers 2 miles of ground like that. And as it's getting closer, I realize that, like, there's nothing, there's no truck, there's not a car, there's nothing. It's like there's just two lights, which is weird because they're super low to the ground. Like, I thought they were headlights. They looked like headlights from a truck. Like, yeah, they were kind of lifted off the ground, but they were 100% definitely, like, absolutely at headlight level. Like, I'm not delusional. I know when something is in the air, and these things looked at headlight level. So as it's getting close to me, I realize that it's not a car, and just as quickly as it caught up on me, the lights go over the top of my car in my lane. They don't change lanes, nothing. It flies over the top of me, and I don't hear anything. I just see these lights flying towards me go over the top of my car. And I'm like, well, if this is a plane flying that low, first of all, there's a problem. Second of all, this thing would be loud, right? Like, it flew over the top of my car, so my first thought is, I'm in the middle of nowhere, rural Utah, so maybe it was like a crop duster or a plane or something. But, like, I would have heard something. I would have heard a propeller. I would have heard a jet of some kind. If a plane's ever flown over your house before, even 40,000 feet in the air, you can hear it. It's not like it doesn't exist. So I'm freaked out at this point. All I know is that lights just caught up with me in 2 seconds when I'm going 100 miles per hour, flew over the top of my car, and made no noise. And to make matters worse, obviously I'm, like, tracking it in my rearview mirror as it goes over the top of me, but I kind of, like, follow it into my rearview mirror and, like, look out my windshield to see anything go over the top of me. And I kid you not, the lights go over the top of my car. I don't hear anything, and I see nothing. I don't see a fleck of light. I don't see anything. Like, it's like these lights just flew over the top of my car and disappeared. And I'm not crazy. Like, I've got 20/20 vision, you know. I didn't see anything. I legit did not see anything fly over or past my car. I just saw these lights fly over the top of me and keep going with absolutely no sound. So I'm scared at this point because anytime you have something like that happen, dude, I immediately started thinking of all the stories of people who were like, aliens abducted me for 6 months and altered my memory. And I'm like, dog, I'm really not trying to get abducted. Like, seeing a UFO is crazy enough, but I'm not trying to get abducted. And I really had to pee when this UFO had gone over me, dude. And I didn't pull over for the rest of the car ride. I actually ended up peeing in the McDonald's cup that I had while driving because I was so terrified to stop because of the UFO. And, you know, before anyone calls me delusional or whatever or crazy, I grew up in Las Vegas, you know, which is pretty close to Area 51. I had never seen a UFO before. Like, it's not like I have a billion UFO stories. And I'm not even convinced it was an alien. Like, I don't know what it could have been. I have no idea. All I know is that anything that was, like, man-made that I know of. I don't know what the government's got locked up. You know, I don't know if Master Chief in Halo is based on a real story and he's just like waking up out of cryo freeze. I don't know what the government's got hidden, but nothing that I know can move that fast, that low, and not make any noise whatsoever. And, you know, before anyone's like, you'd be surprised how quiet jets can be. I've got family members in the military who have worked on aircraft carriers and launched jets, and I've told them this story, and they tell me I would have heard something too. So to this day, I genuinely have absolutely no idea what I saw that day. I have no idea whatsoever. The only thing that does, like, ease my mind, I guess, is that it is the middle of the desert. You know, it's a very sparsely populated area, so if there was any place to test new military technology, I wouldn't be surprised if it's there. there. But what definitely does not make me feel better, okay, and I didn't really know this until I started like researching stuff when I got home that day, but Utah actually has, for whatever reason, like a crap ton more UFO sightings than every other state. They don't know why, they don't know, and this started like back in the 50s. So for whatever reason, I guess Utah's got an alien problem, and I guess I'm a part of that. I mean, I guess I could have been across the Nevada border. I don't know. I was in Utah or Nevada, and whatever flew over the top out of me scared me so bad that I pissed in a McDonald's cup, so you know it was legit.